Elf I am the protagonist template, Invincible Chapter 121-140. Chapter 121, Conception, Unexpected Encounter, Kona. For full order. Baizi naturally didn't know that not long after he left, an enemy, who wanted him to taste himself and the fist of the unknown giant came to the door. At this moment, he was sitting firmly on the wide back of the swift wind speed dog, using his brand new power of Baizi to investigate the attribute information of the auspicious egg in the Pokeball. Sudden, sheet race, auspicious eggs. Attribute, General. Characteristic, Healing Heart, Monty. Level, Gym Advanced, Level 48, 5100ths. Potential, Quasi-King. HP, 250, Attack, 5, Defense, 5, Special Attack, 35, Special Defense, 105, Speed, 50. Skills, Small, Slap, Emulate, Round, Angel's Kiss, Charming Voice, Desire, Coquetry, Tail Wagging, Echo, Life, Water Droplet, Singing, Light Wall, Help, Healing Wave, Laying Eggs, Treasure. Close Black Lens Bracket. Genetic Skills, Aromatherapy, Gravity. Open Black Lens Bracket Status, Perfect Close Black Lens Bracket. Introduction. The qualifications are acceptable, but he has proficient experience in healing, medical treatment, and nursing skills, and he is also good at housework. The level has reached O2. Have you reached the high-level gymnasium? Baizi's expression was slightly surprised. Generally speaking, as special elves of the medical and nursing class, their level of promotion is not too high. It is rare to reach a gymnasium. Generally, they only float up down at the elite level. Because most of their time is basically spent on learning and exercising various medical methods, it will naturally be relatively slow to improve their level and strength. Like Baizi's one, not only does he have quite proficient experience in medical treatment, but he is also a good hand in housework, and his level can be promoted to the high-level gymnasium. To be honest, it is really rare. It seems that Gili Danyi has been working hard all the time. A ray of warmth flashed in Baizi's eyes. He could naturally understand why Gili Egg made all this effort. Thank you for your efforts, Gili Egg. Putting the Pokeball to his mouth, after whispering a word, Baizi's mouth raised slightly, and he carefully retracted the Pokeball to his waist after feeling the slight trembling response from the Pokeball. Speaking, he has quite a few elves now. Big Needle Bee, Zoroha, Wind Speed Dog, Laplace, Chirulian, Iron Dumbbell, Machado, Ibrahimovic, Gili Egg. There are 9 of them, which have exceeded the normal handheld level. But fortunately, as he really holds the combat power for daily training and combat, there are only 6 of them. The rest. As a guardian beast, Marshadow almost always stays in his shadow and does not come out, except he is more interested in kicking skills and is responsible for protecting his safety. To be honest, up to now, he has not been able to control this low-level legend that has reached the realm of the gods. And as the best 7th player in his mind, Ibrahimovic is more focused on analyzing the electrical attribute factors in his body, which can be almost ignored until he has not fully controlled the Thunder Spirit form. Moreover, even if it completely controls the ability to adapt to electrical properties, it has obtained the form of a Thunder Elf. There are also 6 attributes: Spar of Water, Fire, Grass, Ice, Super Energy, and Darkness waiting for it to absorb and master. If Baizi finds the attribute Spar of the Demon, Essence type, there are 7 kinds. Just a single electrical attribute factor, or relying on the Destiny reward, Super Growth buff, that was brushed from the green body, it was barely close to the end of the analysis. I want to analyze all these known forms, but I still don't know how to get the Year of the Monkey and the Horse month. Wait until Ibrahimovic becomes an official combat force. I'm afraid it's a long way to go. As for the auspicious eggs. To be frank, Baizi didn't have much requirements for Gili Egg, a team doctor who was bound to be an auxiliary elves in the team. It doesn't need to be strong, and it doesn't need too much battle, fighting and training. It only needs to treat teammates even in the team battles that may exist in the future, and make daily support and care. In this way, Gili Egg not only does not need to worry about himself, but can also be a good helper for him in daily training and life, helping him share part of his energy. Thinking of this, Baizi couldn't help but praise himself when he had not awakened his memory. If he hadn't learned to flirt with sister at a young age, how could he have obtained a lucky egg that only devoted himself to himself? Gee. Beautiful. However, it is time to find a time to train and integrate the strength of the main battle elves. The big Needlebee doesn't need him to worry too much, and Cerulean's mental strength is indeed gifted, but there are still some deficiencies in fine operation, and he needs to spend some time to make up for it. Laplace's promotion is step by step, so I can't rush it. It's Zoroha. Not counting the iron dumbbells just after birth, the lack of adventure has already opened a big gap between it and the handheld hands of the same period. Now that its exclusive illusion feature has been developed to the point of not being shallow, it's time to focus on leveling up. Otherwise, such a gap may get bigger and bigger, until it can't catch up with the battle strength of other main battle members at all. And when it comes to iron dumbbells, as a quasi-god and a natural king, it ranks first among the main battlers in terms of innate aptitude. However, according to this little guy's killing intent and his Tai Han's performance, I'm afraid he won't follow the route he planned for the main, shield and auxiliary battles. Instead, he prefers to rely on the innate high defense to open the unparalleled berserker. And the wind speed dog. The matter of the fusion of authority also needs to be put on the agenda. The whirring sound of the wind passed through my ears from time to time, and the scenery with 323 light on both sides of the corners of my eyes also quickly retreated like an afterimage. The speed of the wind speed dog is obviously not slow. However, even so fast, Baizi, who was sitting on the back of the wind speed dog, did not show any bumps at all, and the gust of wind blowing in the face was strangely scattered and turned into a, before approaching him. The turbulent currents brushed through Baizi's broken hair, neither light nor heavy, without giving him even the slightest sense of suffocation. And right now, a real-like gaze suddenly fell from somewhere on the upper left. Baizi suddenly woke up. Turning his head, he saw a red-haired beauty in a professional dress with rimless glasses looking at him quietly in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of a second-story building. After seeing him turn his head, his eyes met, and his mouth slightly raised his corners, nodded, chuckled. The wind speed dog passed by. In the blink of an eye, the figure of the red-haired beauty was left behind by him. Baizi slowly retracted his eyes and spirits, and made up his mind again. Eyes, a ray of brilliance flashed. Kona. Chapter 122. Kona's attention, a little busy. Please order. Interesting. The city inspector, in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows on the second floor, looked at the figure passing by in front of him. A splendid gleam flashed in Kona's eyes. Although only a fleeting glance touches. But with her eyesight, how could she not see the extraordinary performance of this wind speed dog? Using the shock, impact effect of the speed skill to dissipate wind resistance. Such delicate and subtle operations are really eye-catching. Kona sighed softly. Immediately, as if she had discovered something, she leaned slightly and looked out the window at the street. I saw that it was near the street, and as far as she could see, all the elves were moving in a uniform direction, staring in the direction where the boy left just now. Eyes, full of gratitude, respect and friendliness. It's as if the person who passed by just now was not just a trainer riding a wind speed dog, but something that made them respect and appreciate from their hearts. And many more. Respect and gratitude. There seemed to be an answer in Kona's mind that was about to emerge from the cocoon. But right now. Squeak. With the sudden opening of the door, Jun Shui walked in a hurry, interrupting Kona's thoughts directly. What's the matter? What happened? Turning around and seeing Jun Shalin with a sullen expression, Kona frowned slightly, but he quickly adjusted his mood and asked. Master Kona. Junshui gave a neat salute, and then said bluntly, after diagnosis, Athena suffered a very brutal superpower attack, her consciousness was broken, and she has become a vegetable. What? Kona's eyes shrank fiercely, and his face quickly became condensed. It's actually. Take me to see it. Yes. On the other hand, this news was quickly known to Sakagi. Broken consciousness. How is it possible? As soon as Sakagi received the news, he couldn't accept it at all. But the undercover agent planted in the Golden City is his cronies, and it is obviously impossible for such news to be spread by mistake. But since it is not wrong, that shows that the one who defeated Athena must be an elf or a superpower who masters the power of the superpower system. Difficulty is Nazi. Sakagi thought of the goal of Athena's trip. But soon, he overturned this speculation. Nazi's potential is indeed good, but the potential is only potential after all, I think, to defeat Athena, who has the strength of the high-ranking king. Obviously, it is still far away. Kona. It's impossible for Kona, she was trapped under the elf tide before, and she didn't have time at all. Could it be the kid who uses the alienated wind speed dog? Sakagi's eyes, God flashed with thoughts, and his expression was extremely gloomy. Athena, this is the die-hard he cultivated, not only powerful, but also in charge of the rocket's multiple experimental projects and industrial economy. It can be said that he is an indispensable money bag under his hands. Its importance. It is simply not comparable to Durham, who died before, and Lance, who has been escorted now. Evil. The blue veins on Sakagi's forehead burst, but he quickly calmed down, closed his eyes, and leaned on the sofa chair for a long time. When he opened it again, his eyes were filled with indifference. Jingle, one by one, he pressed the button on the desk. Soon, a short-haired woman with glasses in business attire pushed in the door. Boss. From now on, stop all activities, go underground, and avoid problems with other bright industries. Yes. Let the three beasts lead the team in person, and wash the internal old school. Yes. Here, there is also the abandoned number 2 headquarters in Vibrant City. In the afternoon, accompany me to Nijima. Yes. The real bird nodded again, and then, hesitantly, tentatively asked, then. What should I do with Lance? Lance. Sakagi's eyes widened, and his palm slid from Boss Cat's neck all the way to his back. Install him with an explosive chip, temporarily. Transfer to the front line. Understood. Go ahead and get ready for the special plane to New Island. Yes, I'll do it right away. Sakagi waved his hand, and after Ma Bird was in the room, he pushed away the cat boss at his feet and took out an old-fashioned communicator from the drawer. After dialing a number, he hung up immediately. Waited for a while. Jingling heard the ringing on the table one by one, and Sakagi connected directly. There was a voice over there, and the tone was obviously impatient. I said, what call are you calling me at this time? I tell you, I'm not sure about this. 1% of the original shares of Shalouf Group. What? Do me a little favor, I am willing to pay 1% of the original shares of Shalouf Group. The other end of the phone fell silent, and soon, a faint voice came from the other side. Sakagi, are you serious? Sakagi didn't answer. Soon, the opposite voice came again. I want 5%. Sakagi's eyes. Shinji, Zhang suddenly increased his killing intent, but he still said in a calm voice, up to 1.5%. Otherwise, I can't afford to be so busy. Okay, 1.5% is 1.5%. Ha ha ha. The excited voice on the other end of the phone could hardly be concealed, but after agreeing in one word, his tone suddenly softened. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Say it in advance, you rockets. Okay, the last thing. It's too much, and we can't really help with some busyness. Sakagi's eyes were dark. He took out a picture of a brown-haired old man from the drawer, played with it, and said slowly, I need to know the strike force, plan, route, and staffing of this alliance. Anything else? Don't worry, this last one is just a trivial matter. Sakagi threw the photo in his hand towards the cat boss at his feet. I need you to help me find someone. Gong, show one by one. A cold light flashed then. In the next second, the photo was split into two from the man's head. Chapter 123. The conch changes, a bad premonition, the storm is about to come. For full order. City of Lamperch. It is the most famous seaside resort in the Kanto region. It is famous for its golden sandy beaches, blue sea and all kinds of beautiful bikini swimmers. The tourism industry is very developed. After leaving the Golden City and picking up Natsu at Junction 7 at Examen, the two of them rode the wind speed dog together towards the seaside city in the southwest. Along the way, Baizi hardly made many stops except for the necessary accommodation. Almost all the time, he was driving the wind speed dog in the direction of Ramperch. It wasn't that he was so anxious about Xiaoji's affairs. After all, he knew that it was useless to rush things, and that it was already too late, so he didn't make it in time. The real reason lies in that god, calling conch, in his hand. After leaving the Golden City to pick up Natsu, Baizi took out the joined, god summoning conch, and began to investigate. Calling the god conch. The person who blows the conch will be able to call for the arrival of Lugia, the god of the sea. The function is clear and the method is simple. It can be said that it is obvious at a glance. However, not long after Baizi took out the god summoning conch, the thing started to vibrate spontaneously, and the force it sent out faintly pointed in the direction of Lampolchi City. Moreover, the amplitude of this east-west jitter has become stronger and stronger as time goes by, and now, it is almost to the point where Baizi can't hold it. The time when Baizi and Natsu officially entered the city of Lamperchi was the early morning of the next day. Although it's still early. But on the golden sandy beach, there are already many tourists strolling and playing in the water. And the amazing thing is that the moment Baizi set foot on this seaside city with golden sandy beaches, the 323 calling god conch that was shaking violently was like a vibrator that suddenly lost its electricity. Instantly calmed down. What the hell is going on here? Baizi frowned slightly. To be honest, he really didn't like this feeling that was completely out of his control. The change of god summoning conch also gave him a faint premonition. Forget it, it's useless to think too much. Shaking his head, he shoved the god summoning conch into his pocket. Baizi took the wind speed dog back and led Nazi towards the coconut forest on the side of the beach. According to the original story in memory, Ash and his party will arrive at the Golden Beach in Lampolchi City in the woods after passing through the mechanical fairyland. Baizi is going to follow the path in the forest and look in the direction of the mechanical fairy paradise to see if he can. It doesn't seem to be. Brother Baizi. Looking at Xiaoji running towards him, the brown-black-skinned Xiaoging with squinting eyes behind him, and the girl Xiaoxia with a one-sided ponytail, Baizi stroked his forehead slightly. Sure enough, he shouldn't worry about this guy with the protagonist template. Lamperchi Ferry Center. In front of the video station. Yes, Aunt Hanako, Ash's words are by my side now, you don't have to worry too much. You've already boarded the airship to Lamperchi, so you can come here today. Then, do you want Ash and you? No, the airship is coming to a stop soon, see you on the beach later. Looking at Hanako, who smiled and waved her hand, and hung up the video, Baizi's mouth twitched slightly. Thinking back to Aunt Hanako's past video mail, the sad expression was almost beyond words. For a while, he really couldn't tell the safety of Hanako for Xiaoji, whether ACBH worried or not. I'll just say it's fine, brother Baizi, you are making a fuss. Xiaozi Shuang held the back of his head in his hands, pouted slightly, and had a sorrow, not you, expression on his face. Baizi's expression stiffened. Then, with a harmonious smile on his face, he asked warmly, Xiaoji, after such a long trip, do you want to have a 6v6 showdown with me? Let me see how you grow up. Like. Xiaoging and Xiaoxia endured. No, shaking all over, out of can't bear, the two of them were about to speak to help Xiaoji refuse. But when Xiaoji heard the battle, he immediately became excited. Fight, fight. Of course there is no problem. Well, as expected of you, Ash. Come on. Baizi gave Xiaoji a thumbs up, then turned around and walked towards the lower one outside the center of the elf, followed by Nazi. Looking at Baizi's back, Xiaoji scratched his head a little and muttered, "How do you feel? Brother Baizi looks a little weird today." "Forget it, don't think about it. Wait for me." After thinking about it for a while, Xiaoji, who had no clue, simply left this behind and chased after him excitedly. Behind him, Xiaogang and Xiaoxia glanced at each other, and both saw obvious sympathy in each other's eyes. Little fire dragon. Accompanied by a stupefied exclamation, the last little fire dragon to play appeared in a black fog, and fell on its back on the sand. Zoroa under your command defeated Xiaoji's little fire dragon, and gained a little, battle experience +1, Zoroya experience +8, staring skill, skill +1, ghost face skill, skill +1. 1. Everything, just like the replay of the previous battle at Zhengwei Lighthouse, Xiaoji was pushed by Baizi with 1, only Zoroha. But the last time was 1v3, and Zoroa's consumption was not small. And this time, although it was 1v6. Oh, no, it should be 1v5. Pikachu learned that he was going to fight with Baizi, and he was unwilling to play if he was killed, so it was temporarily changed to 5v5. Or, it was 1v5. This time, although the number of opponents increased, but Zoroha dealt with it more easily. After defeating the little fire dragon who played as the finale, he almost didn't feel breathless at all, and his relaxed attitude could be said to be clear at a glance. The difference is too big. And, it's getting bigger and bigger. Xiaoxia and Xiaogang looked at each other, and both seemed a little helpless. Although it has gone through a period of travel, to be honest, Ash has hardly grown at all. By now. They really hope that Xiaoji can be hit a little bit, so maybe there will be changes, and they will try to get stronger. However, I was swept away by 6 out of 1, what should I say? As expected of you, Xiaoji. At this moment, a mocking voice came from the crowd not far away, and a spiky, headed boy in a floral shirt and pants was surrounded by 6 distinctive young older sisters. He walked over under the crowd, his tone was full of ridicule. "It's you, shit Mao." As soon as he heard this sound, Xiaoji, who was still a little frustrated, immediately turned over and replied with an unhappy face, "It's like you are very powerful, you know, Brother Baizi is very strong." "Yes, maybe you lost worse than me." "Huh, what a joke." Xiao Maoyi sneered and said with his nostrils pointing upwards, "Who am I? This young master is Xiao Mao. Do you think I will be like you? Brother Baizi's only Soraya, it is impossible it's this young master's opponent." "Tisk tisk, it's a little floating, Xiao Mao, it seems that you need to rescue, too, let's go." Baizi's eyes narrowed slightly. He stepped forward to stop Xiaoji, who was going to continue to reply, and came to Xiao Mao with a gentle tone and the same, harmonious, smile on his face as he had just invited to fight. "How about Xiao Mao, it means nothing if you talk about it or not. Since you say you are stronger than Xiaoji, how about a fight?" "Of course no problem," Xiao Maoyi said confidently. "Even if it's Brother Baizi, I can't possibly lose." "Haha, it looks like I'm here at the right time." With a familiar voice, a casual Dr. Ogi with Xiaoji's mother Hanako squeezed in from the crowd. "Since Xiao Mao wants to challenge Baizi, then, this battle let me be the referee." "Grandpa!" Xiao Mao shouted out in surprise, but then he immediately retorted, "What is a challenge? It's a fair duel." "Ha ha ha, all the same, all the same." Dr. Damu obviously didn't listen to these words. As the top trainer who was all-powerful back then, the gap between Baizi and Xiao Mao, he could see at a glance, there was a huge gap like a ditch, gully. As expected of you, Baizi. At this time, he has already awakened and mastered the use of she. Ellipsis. At the same time, on the reef at the edge of the golden sands of the city of Lamperchi. Wu tilde. A petite, blue, and white figure poked his head out of the sea in confusion and looked into the distance. What's going on? That direction seems to have a mother's taste. The same moment. Kanto. Sea area. Suspended on an artificial island of weather forecast just off the coastline south of the city of Lamperch. Weather station. Monitor indoors. Woo woo, woo woo, woo woo. The bursts of chirping sounded from small to large, suddenly resounding throughout the entire room, awakening the two staff members who were leisurely eating ice cream with each other. What's the matter? This is a red weather alert. How is that possible? I'll check it out. One of the staff members quickly got up and started crackling. For a moment, he looked a little confused. All the data are normal. Why does the forecaster suddenly send out a red alert? Yes. Another staff member was also confused. He glanced at the calm sea and sky in the distance, and murmured, "It's still the same clear sky as before. How could it be?" Not finished. Boom! A burst of muffled thunder suddenly resounded in the distant sky. Following this, the layers of dark clouds pressed towards the low sky like a market, like a curtain covering the sky, rapidly spreading in this direction. Clap la la, a sea that was originally as calm as a mirror also immediately piled up like mountains and mountains. In no time. Heavy rain, pouring down. Chapter 124. Xiao Mao, let you see the strength of this young master. For full order. The rain curtain of the sky is like the Milky Way hanging upside down, connecting the sea and the sky. The rain washed away one by one, washing away the last trace of summer heat, and brought bursts of refreshing coolness. Because of the sudden rainstorm, everyone had to temporarily follow Dr. Damu to the Ramparch hotel that he had booked earlier. Strange. Dr. Damu squeezed his chin and looked at the rain curtain outside the hotel, with a puzzled expression. Although the coastal areas are indeed unpredictable, there is no sign of such a heavy rain of this magnitude. Yeah, what a pity. I thought I could see Shifu Mao being beaten up by Brother Baizi. Xiao Ji, who was beside him, also sighed, with a very pity expression. Hash. Xiao Mao heard the blue veins bulge on his forehead. After taking a deep breath, he got up and came to Dr. Damu's side and said, "Grandpa, this hotel should also have a private battle venue, right?" "That's right." Dr. Damu nodded and said with a smile, "Why, do you want to continue the previous battle?" "Yes." Xiao Mao's answer was decisive, with a bit of gnashing of teeth in his tone. I want some crane tails to know what is the real training, home." "Oh." Dr. Ogi's expression was amused. "A real trainer. Speaking of which, the Junshin town of this generation is indeed full of talents, not to mention the girl who disappeared unexpectedly back then, but invaded the Great Wood Research Institute and stealed the seeds of the wonderful frog not long ago. Whether it is Kai, who has an unusually amazing talent in the battle, or his eldest grandson, Damu Qinglu, they are all champions. Plus a Baizi who even he can't see through. To be frank, although Xiao Mao is indeed considered to be somewhat talented, compared with these few guys who are called monsters, in terms of trainer talent, they are still too far behind. However, it's okay to suffer some setbacks. Just like now, the beautiful car and beautiful women play the house, relying on the favorable innate conditions to obtain the badge from the gym trainer in the sea, and then defeat some passerby trainers who can't even get on the league competition, and then call themselves a genius. It's been a long time. Dr. Damu was afraid that Xiao Mao, who was praised too high, would be hit too hard when he really faced setbacks, and he never recovered. It's not like I'll give him a head-on blow here, and let him see his own shortcomings as soon as possible. Thinking like this, Dr. Damu turned his attention to the silver-haired boy who had been staring at the rain curtain since he entered the hotel, and greeted loudly, "Baizi, Xiao Mao wants to continue the battle just now, you see. This sudden rainstorm is simply a sudden change in the weather, or is it?" Baizi, who was pondering in his heart, immediately retracted his thoughts after hearing Dr. Damu's call, and swept his eyes on Xiao Mao, who was full of fighting spirit, and Dr. Damu, who had deep eyes, and then nodded in response. Of course not. Question. Whether or not there is a problem, he can't come to a conclusion for the time being. However, there is absolutely no reason for Xiao Mao not to accept the destiny reward that came to his door. Rampart Hotel. Top layer. Private battle arena. In this world full of elves, there is only one facility that is almost possessed and indispensable in all kinds of places around the world. That is to provide a dual venue for elves to fight. As a well-known 5-star hotel, the Ramparki Hotel is naturally indispensable for such facilities. But in the face of Dr. Damu, the hotel manager also specially led everyone to a large battle room on the top floor of the hotel. This battle room is not small. It occupies almost 1/3 of the top floor of the hotel. The walls and the ground are all paved with black stone square bricks. This east-west base knows that black yaoshi, a special mineral with an extremely hard texture. Its hardness is as high as that of diamonds, and it is not brittle. It is one of the reinforcement materials for the bottom of the playing field in the major events of the Elf League. Generally speaking, the level of elves below the quasi-kings, the strength of the skills is almost difficult to leave too deep scars on them. The ceiling is a transparent but opaque colorless crystal shield. Looking up, you can see the rain curtain rushing down, but no sound penetrates, obviously it is soundproof. On both sides of the battle field, these are two independent small platforms. In front of the platforms, a semicircle of crystal shields of the same material as the ceiling blocks them in front of the platforms. The whole body is transparent, but it does not obstruct the line of sight. It seems that it is a protective measure set up to protect the trainer. Be honest. This battle venue is indeed luxurious enough. Baizi walked to the side of the battlefield depicted in the training room with a dull expression, and quietly looked at Xiao Mao, who was also standing on the opposite side. Tell me, how do you want to compare? 6v6 is too time-consuming, 3v3 is enough for you to see the strength of this young master. Xiao Mao's expression was arrogant. Yes. Baizi's expression did not have any strange color, and he responded lightly. On the side, Dr. Damu frowned and glanced at his grandson, after confirming that both parties were ready. As the temporary referee, he waved his hand neatly and announced, "Both sides, release the elves at the same time." Wow tilde. D&D and tilde. With the order of Dr. Ogi, Baizi and Xiao Mao released the first elf to play at almost the same time. Baizi chose to let Zoroha continue to play. And what Xiao Mao released from the Pokeball was a yellow elf covered with black lightning patterns, and the tentacles on the top of his head, like a plug, kept making a crackling electric sound. 0. Ask for flowers. This is a pure electric spirit, an electric shock monster. Xiao Mao is really good. Xiao Mao is really good. Outside the field, I don't know when I changed into cheerleading uniforms, and Xiao Mao's girlfriends, who were waving colorful balls in their hands, started to run and dance to cheer up. Baizi's mouth twitched slightly. It wasn't because the scene made him uncomfortable. But it was because of the telepathy that suddenly came from Nazi in my mind. Baizi, do you need me to cheer you on like this? I can control the whole hotel to come over. No, please don't. Baizi quickly refused. At the same time, Shuang's eyes gradually rose, and he swept towards the dazzling electric shock monster in the field of a race. Electric shock monster. Attribute: electricity. Feature: static electricity. Level: Elite Intermediate, level 29, 99/100. Open black lens bracket, close black lens bracket. Introduction: a cost-effective electric shock monster with plenty of power and can evolve at any time. Invisibly close to the elite high level, at any time may face the electric shock monster that evolves and greatly enhances the strength. Baizi has to admit. He really underestimated Xiao Mao, this arrogant. The level of this electric shock monster is even higher than that of his Zoroha. Compared with today's Xiaoji, it is indeed much better. However, in Bai Zi's eyes, there is still no suspense about the outcome of this battle. In the face of the flamboyant electric shock monster, Zoroya also showed no signs of weakness. The dark purple and almost black mist surrounded its petite body. Zoroya tried to imitate Bai Zi's appearance and raise the fox's head lightly. With the corner of his eyes, he gave the electric shock monster on the opposite side a look of incomparable contempt. Electricity. In an instant, the blasted electric shock monster burst into a solid yellow current. In the field, there was a moment of tension. "It looks like you two are ready," Dr. Damu, who was temporarily serving as the referee, asked at this moment with his hands up. Seeing that both sides of the battle nodded in response, they simply stepped back. "Then, let's go." To be honest, he is also very interested in this battle, but this interest is nothing but curiosity about Bai Zi's strength at this time. As for victory, at the moment of perceiving the potential bred within Bai Zi's body, in his eyes, this game, too, is no longer suspenseful. Chapter 125. To show the style without losing the demeanor. Please complete the order. Electrical monster, 100,000 volts. Although he was very arrogant, Xiaomao didn't dare to be careless about Bai Zi, who had been very mature since he was a child, so he gave the order immediately. Electricity. The electric shock monster, who had been impatient for a long time, responded loudly, and the plug above his head finally began to move in and out of the dazzling electric light. In the end, it converged into a huge, substantial thunder column, which blasted straight towards Zoroya. And just when the 100,000 volts was just detached from the plug on the top of the electric shock monster's head, Bai Zi, who was waiting indifferently, suddenly said, "Left jump, use stare." Wow! Zoroya moved when he heard the sound, and his light body slightly bent his knees and jumped, and then directly avoided the attack of the thunder column with a very single trajectory. After 100,000 volts blasted a scorch mark on the ground, there was no other achievement. And then, at the moment of avoiding the thunder pillar and landing, Zoroya's eyes, the gods, flashed a strange purple, black light. At the same time as this purple-black light lit up, a black mist suddenly appeared on the body of the electric shock monster. Electricity. With a muffled groan, a sense of timidity arose in the electric shock monster's heart for no reason, and the electrical factor on the body surface also chaotically spilled out. Its defense was lowered by Zoroya's staring trick. Is it seen through? The gap between experience and eyesight is too big. Watching the first round of confrontation on the field, Dr. Damu shook his head slightly with a slight sigh. The power of this 100,000 volt light is indeed remarkable. It also proves that this electric shock monster has been cultivated well, and the electric energy in the body is also very sufficient and active. But this kind of stagnant stance output is simply full of mistakes in front of a truly skilled trainer, and it doesn't take too much effort to deal with it. Just like now, Zoroya avoided the attack with just a small jump. It even took advantage of the gap between the electric shock monster's release skills and put a layer of weakening skills on the opponent. Just look at this, the gap between the two sides is clear at a glance. Evil. Xiaomao's silver teeth clenched, and the unfavorable situation in his apprenticeship made him a little irritable. However, after receiving a good education, he calmed down the first time and gave instructions quickly. Electric shock monster, power grid, high-speed stars, electric ya. The electric shock monster let out a low voice, and the lightning flashes around him temporarily dispelled the black mist. Afterwards, the palm of the hand pressed against the plug-like corner on the top of the head, rubbing it quickly, weaving a small grid in midair like a thread, and slamming it out. The thorny power grid quickly absorbed the free electrical attribute factors in the air after breaking out of the electric shock monster's palm. When it crossed half of the field, it had become a huge 3-meter-long and wide lightning grid. But it's not over yet. After releasing the grid, the shock monster took a deep breath. In the next second, the beam group composed of countless shining star-shaped energies flew out of the electric shock monster's mouth in an instant. It turned into a stream of light, and the last ones caught up with the power grid in front, driving it, turning it into a huge lightning grid pocket, and suddenly moving towards the Zoroha hood in the field. Power grid plus high speed stars. Witness this young master's gorgeous combo. This trick was prepared by him for a long time to deal with the super mobile flying mantis that he grew up with, but always pressed his elder brother Qinglu. Take advantage of the coverage of the power grid and the fast speed impact of high speed stars. In the arena with limited range of activities, it will inevitably become the nemesis of fast attackers with high attack and bottom defense like flying mantis. Even brother Baizi's, the flashing hornby, is the same. It's a pity to use it here. Xiaomao thought with restraint in his heart. At the same time, the surging passion for this combo came with a loud name, Meteor Grid. Sigui. On the sidelines, Xiaozi had a flushed face and panting, while Dr. Ogi, who was standing beside him, nodded his head and expressed his affirmation. Is it Meteor Grid? It's really a good combination move. Quote. At this time, facing the rapidly wrapping meteor power grid in the field, Zoroha, who felt threatened, suddenly buckled the ground slightly, and did not follow his instinct to avoid the field. Because it believes in Baizi 100%, it is impossible for Baizi to live up to its expectations. Of course, Zoroha. As if sensing Soroya's wholehearted trust, Baizi's mouth slightly raised, and he ordered in a loud voice, imitate. Supernatural power. Ow. The trainer's voice made Zoroha calm down in an instant, and it suddenly straightened its body, and the meteor grid reflected in its pupils suddenly shone. Instant. Along with a gust of wind, a beam group of star-shaped energy condensed in the void above Zoroha. A burst of invisible magical power was wrapped up and moved towards midair. The meteor grid greets you head-on. One pop. Snapped. Countless high-speed stars covering the power grid were directly smashed as its propulsion turned into countless energy powders, and replaced by the high-speed stars that were wrapped in supernatural powers on the opposite side of Sarayana. The power grid was suddenly pulled up in the opposite direction, and at a faster speed, it went in the direction of the electric shock monster. What? It turned out. Xiaomao's eyes widened suddenly, looking like he couldn't believe it. In the face of this situation, Xiaoji outside the venue shouted and reminded him very unruly, Xiaomao, hurry up and order to avoid it. Xiaomao Dun was startled, and quickly ordered, quickly use a flash of electric light. However, the words were not finished yet. Boom, the huge lightning net pocket has been volleyed under the cover, completely encompassing the electric shock monster. Afterwards, the successive bombardments were accompanied by bursts of lightning flashes. In the field, the direction of the electric shock monster was immediately covered by the rising smoke, and the specific situation could not be looked down upon. Bai Zeshuang narrowed his eyes and ordered again. With his fighting style, when faced with such a situation that obstructs his vision, the first thing he should do is to carry out additional strikes that cover it, and it is impossible to give the opponent the slightest chance to take advantage of it. But the scene that followed made Baizi give up his plan to continue chasing. At this moment, a strange energy radiated from the smoke screen along with bursts of white light. Gradually, the smoke gradually disappeared, revealing the electric shock monster whose appearance has changed greatly. The round body has been transformed into a human shape, and the hands have also differentiated into 5 fingers, coupled with a long black striped tail. The overall color scheme is very similar to that of a tiger, and the plug-like horns have also turned into conductors. This is the device it uses to store electricity. Electric Beast. Xiaomao excitedly called out the new name after the evolution of the electric shock monster. Open black lens bracket race. Electric shock beast close black lens bracket. Attribute: electricity. Feature: static electricity. Level: elite height level 33, 0/100. Introduction: it's a fairly decent electric shock beast. It has just evolved, and it can't control the surge of electric factors in the body. Sure enough, Baizi's mouth twitched slightly. When looking at the electric shock monster before, Baizi had already had a hunch when the introduction stated that power is abundant, and it may evolve at any time. After all, the explosive behavior of the strong is almost the standard for all kinds of protagonists. However, when such a thing appeared in front of his eyes, it still made him feel a little speechless. Oh, it's just a little bit speechless. Zero. After all, he had heard Qinglu say before, that this guy, Crimson, is now about to become stronger in battle, and regard it as a routine operation. Gee. What a monster. Baizi thought so unconsciously in his heart. Afterwards, after waiting quietly for Xiaomao and the electric shock beast to have a brief interaction, he said, "Are you all right? If so, the battle will continue." "Sorry." Xiaomao scratched his head and signaled that the electric shock beast would come back on the field, and then he became highly motivated again. "The second round, let's start." Snapped. Baizi was expressionless, and after suddenly snapping his fingers, he ordered, "Fake cry. Out tilde tilde tilde." Zoroya's expression suddenly changed, her petite body slumped directly on the ground, her love fell on the ground, her face grieved and she dropped the golden beans, and after a while, she was already crying. Out of breath. Gai yi yi. As a rough man, where have you seen the electric shock beast? You must know that Baizi specially asked the only male elf hornet in the team before, and learned that Zoroa belongs to the elf aesthetics. The kind of charming little loli. Now, such a cute girl who cried so much with pear blossoms and rain was suddenly placed in front of the electric shock beast, even an elf would be a little confused. And when it was stunned. In the air. With the sound of Zoroa's cry, invisible fluctuations also spread to the body of the electric shock beast. It started silently, reducing the electric property factor of the electric shock beast's fur surface, and it continued to decrease. With its special defense ability. Electric beast, what are you doing? Be awake. Xiaomao shouted with a dark face. Quickly fight back, the lightning flashes, go and use the lightning fist. Electric tilde electricity. To Zoroha who was still slumped on the ground. Electric shock beast. Xiaomao, who was staring at the field closely, suddenly changed his face and shouted to the electric shock beast in vain. Immediately, the shock beast's waving arm slammed, staggered a little bit, and smashed heavily on the ground behind Zoroa, at an angle that was almost close to the scalp of Zoroa. 1.7 Boom. Thorns, a powerful blow sent the smoke and dust on the ground all over the place, and there was a slight vibration, and the thick smoke and dust also flickered with electric light from time to time, showing the power of this powerful blow, as well as its persistence. Xiaomao breathed a sigh of relief, raised his head slightly, and tried his best to hide the smile on his face, just as he was thinking about how to open his mouth to show his style without losing his demeanor. Baizi's clear voice came in advance. Although I really want to thank you for Zoroya for being merciful at a critical moment. But, Baizi said, stretched out his index finger and gestured toward the top translucent crystal shield. What? Xiaomao was stunned for a moment, then suddenly raised his head, only to find that there was nothing on the top. But just when he was about to bow his head to condemn, an illusory curtain suddenly appeared and disappeared quickly, revealing Zoroha, who was stepping on the void. His eyes were closed, and the whole body was constantly surrounded by bursts of bright white light. P.S. Zoroha can fly. There is an explanation behind this, but smart friends can guess the principle first. Prompt. 2 skills are used. Chapter 126. The Sixth Destiny, the evolution that was forcibly terminated. For full order. How is it possible? Xiaomao's eyes widened immediately. As the grandson of Dr. Damu, he was very knowledgeable. Although Zoroha was rare, he was not ignorant. Even if he doesn't know too much, he at least knows that Zoroa can't fly. Even the genetic skills of this Zoroa are the rare superpower type trick, magic power. Because the body surface of the evil-type elves will secrete a component that can neutralize the super energy factor, which is why the evil-type elves are immune to most superpower-type skills. The reason is the vast majority. The main reason is that there are similar, Eye of Miracles, in the superpower department skills, a kind of change type trick that can make the target fall into a state of being seen through, reset the increased dodge rate, and make the superpower system work directly. But the Eye of Miracles can't be learned even by super type elves, let alone Zoroha, who is an evil type. So, in short, he still doesn't understand why Zoroha can fly. Could it be that this is still an illusion? Xiao Mao can't guess, he can't be sure. That being the case, Xiao Mao winked. At this moment, he showed the demeanor he should have as an excellent trainer. Discharge. Use full power. Covering discharge. Electrical yay. It seems that he sensed Xiao Mao's resolute intention at this time. A layer of violent lightning suddenly emerged from the body of the electric shock beast, and instantly drowned Zoroha's phantom, and quickly swelled, intending to destroy the entire battle. The venue and the sky above are completely submerged. It's a good response, but such scattered attacks can no longer resist Zoroha at this time. Bai Zi's eyes flashed a hint of admiration. But as he said, with the time won by fake crying and delusional confusion, Zoroha has now used the meditation skills learned from the hand of rival Cerulean to increase a few rounds. Its increase in special attack, at least nearly 3 times. So, Dark Blast. Ow tilde. Following Bai Zi's order, Zoroha opened her tightly closed eyes, and the white light around her body was quickly covered by an ominous purple-black light. In the shrill screams, a large number of evil energy factors condensed out like a substance, turned into a turbulent wave and rushed out. Living. Rumbling, surging waves of evil elements collided head-on with the flickering electric mons, and a series of continuous electric explosions rang out. But it was only a stalemate for a moment. The electric light was like a flame in a surging tide, engulfed by the instant annihilation. The turbulent black impact strike was like a long rainbow penetrating the sun, tearing all obstacles in front of it like a broken bamboo, and the heavy impact strike hit the body of the electric shock beast, smashed it out of the arena with one blow, and slammed into the wall behind Xiao Mao ruthlessly. Click, can be wiped. The slight cracking sound that followed suddenly attracted the attention of Dr. Ogi, and when he turned his head to look, he happened to find a little golden powder spilling under Zoroha's feet. So it is. A glimpse of clarity flashed in Dr. Ogi's eyes. At this moment, he finally understood the mystery of Zoroha's flight. Bai Zi. Dr. Ogi turned his head, looked at Bai Zi, who was catching Zoroha falling from midair, and was gently soothing him, and asked, "The principle of Zoroha's floating is to use the high-speed stars fixed by supernatural powers as a foothold." "Right, yes." Bai Zi nodded gently, his expression calm. "Is that so?" Xiao Mao lowered his head, his eyes flashed with a hint of enlightenment, and then he got up and came to the fainted electric shock beast, said, "You've done a good job," and then took it back to the Pokeball middle. "And right now," the familiar mechanical prompt sounded from Bai Zi's ears. "You command Zoroha to leapfrog and defeat Xiao Mao's electric shock beast. Gain a little, battle experience +20, physique +3, Zoroha level +2. Ding! Defeat the Son of Destiny, get the pursuit reward. Future combat power time limit card, requires activation." Bai Ziwei raised his eyebrows slightly. Did not look closely. Instead, he turned his attention to the body of Xiao Mao, who was a little depressed, but seemed to be awakened by something. A smile flashed in his eyes. I am finally growing up, Xiao Mao. Brother Bai Zi, I lost the first game, please continue to enlighten me. Xiao Mao carefully put away the electric beast's pokeball, raised his head, looked at Bai Zi with burning eyes, and immediately threw another pokeball. "Come on, Kamui." Kami tilde. Quote. A flash of white light flashed, and a very strong Kamui turtle appeared on the field, with a calm momentum and firm eyes, and it was well cultivated at first sight. Open black lens bracket race. Kami turtle close black lens bracket. Attribute: water. Feature: torrent. Level: elite advanced, level 30, 5100ths. Potential: king of heaven. Open black lens bracket. Close black lens bracket. Prop. Mysterious water drops. Open black lens bracket status. Perfect close black lens bracket. Introduction. Cami Turtle, which has grown very well in terms of ability balance, has almost no obvious weaknesses. The level is higher than that of the electric shock monster at the beginning, and it is basically the same as today's Zoroha. After all, this is the initial elf that Xiaomao received from Dr. Ogi. Not to mention, Baizi glanced at the blue water droplets hanging on the neck of this Cami turtle, with a slight expression on his face. It's a luxurious use. Generally speaking, this kind of attribute props that are directly born naturally can be directly integrated into the body of the elves to play a role. Therefore, in order to avoid loss, the trainer basically directly integrates the elves into the props to gain the boost. For example, the mysterious water droplets on the neck of Xiaomao Kamui can increase the power of the water tricks of elf dreams carrying this item by 10%. But there is a more extravagant method. Because the inside of the life water drop is actually born from a large number of water attribute factors combined with strange natural energy, it can also allow the elves with the water attribute to absorb the energy and accelerate their growth. However, a high-quality, life water drop is worth at least tens of millions. In order to save a little growth time, it is directly used as a consumable. Tisk tisk, such a luxury, the financial resources of the Damu family are really not to be underestimated. Is sighing room. Suddenly, a burst of slightly bright white light suddenly flickered from Baizi's arms. Baizi lowered his head, and saw Zoroha, who was slightly panicked by the white light. It doesn't matter, Zoroha, you are ushering in evolution and will become stronger. Baizi comforted with a smile on the corner of his mouth. At the same time, he squatted slightly, ready to put down Zoroha in his arms. After all, after evolution, Zoroark is tall enough, but it is no longer like this petite form. But right now, with a dull whimper, the white light that almost completely enveloped Zoroa's body suddenly faded away. In the end, the sound of pop turned into a bubble, a spot of light. Zoroha forcibly stopped evolution. Baizi's smile froze for a moment, but before he could say anything, Soraya jumped out of Baizi's arms with a smirk, trod a few steps with a guilty conscience, and moved towards the card opposite. Mi Turtle made a provocative sound, and the idea of diverting his attention was quite obvious. Everyone on the field looked at each other in dismay. They have all seen evolution, but forced to stop evolution. Please redeem them for their ignorance. Even Xiaoji. Before experiencing the thing that the seeds of the wonderful frog suppressed the evolution, it was also very confusing. Brother Baizi. Xiaomao turned his questioning eyes to Baizi. Baizi exhaled slightly and stretched his brows. To be honest, he himself, alright, didn't expect Zoroya to refuse to evolve, and even forced to withdraw from the process of evolution. However, looking at Zoroja's deaf ears, I'm afraid he can't ask anything for a while, so let's talk about finishing this battle. It's okay. He shook his head and said, go ahead. Good. Xiaomao simply nodded, put aside the miscellaneous thoughts, and devoted himself to the battle. Cami Turtle, use the water jet. Cami tilde. After being ordered by the trainer, Kamui, who was already ready, put his palms back as far as possible, and then suddenly leaned over and slapped on the ground. In an instant, a layer of turbulent water gushed out from Kamui's palm, moving rapidly on the ground, like a sword light rising, and rushing straight towards Zoroya. P.S. I have to say something here. I watched Journey, level 68, Lord Mao YYDS. Oh, just look at level 68, the others are just disgusting people tilde. Chapter 127. The Real Gap, Xiao Mao's Transformation. For full order, use emulation. As the so-called one trick is eaten all over the sky, for Zoroha, who lacks long-handed offensive skills, imitating this genetic skill is a magical skill. Therefore, in the face of the jet of water that came from the Kamui turtle, Zoroha did not panic at all. snapped. I saw it slap the ground with a pair of small front claws, and the ground also quickly surged a stream of water, in a straight line, to meet it. Stare, then use supernatural powers. Immediately after that, in an almost unstoppable moment, Baizi's next order was quickly issued. Wu tilde. And Zoroha lived up to expectations, staring at his opponent, his eyes glowed red. When the Kamui turtle looked at each other, he endured a shiver all over his body. The whole body flickered slightly, and the defense was lowered. Not only that. This moment of trance was also used by Zoroha, taking the opportunity to pull it violently, and the invisible mysterious force suddenly pulled it up. Pull it here, shoot it down, grab it. The bright color in Soraya's eyes became darker and darker. While pulling Kami Turtle, he kicked his hind limbs and slapped his palm towards Kami in midair. Turtle's abdomen. Immediately, a deep energy swam, rushed, and struck, with a pop sound. The mysterious water drop rope chain at the neck of Kami's turtle broke. It can be used as a role in the battle process. The mysterious water drop of the back energy was knocked aside. And then, Zoroa's sharp blades claws staggered and slashed swiftly on Kamui's body. Countless blue and white streamers flew by, and in the next second, Kamui also flew out with a scream, and rolled toward the ground. Baizi, who was holding things in his heart, was obviously no better than before. The offensive was swift and violent, and Joe 323 even had an aura that transcended everything. Kami Turtle. Xiao Maoyi's face paled with shock. The huge gap between the trainers made him almost unable to fight back, but fortunately it was not too late. He still had a chance to fight back. Kami Turtle, shrink in the shell, use high-speed rotation. Bang, Kami. Kamui barely flipped its body at the moment of landing, and used the turtle shell to slow down some damage. Afterwards, he caught the neutral position of the tortoise shell and retracted his body into the shell, and spun it at a high speed like a top. It has to be said that this series of reactions can be completed under such conditions. This Kami turtle is worthy of the systematic evaluation of, has excellent growth in terms of ability balance. Its reactions, resistance to pressure, and even endurance strength and understanding of order are quite good, and there is no shortcoming. However, snapped. With a crisp snap of fingers, Baizi's cold voice came again, provocation. Ghost face. Dark blast. Another set of consecutive instructions. He tilde. Today's Zoroya seems to be particularly agile, accompanied by a slightly playful sneer. Under the hook of the strange force, the high-speed rotating Kamui turtle is in an extremely silky turning position, moving towards Zoroya from the front door. At the same time, a pair of dark energy pupils loomed in the void behind Zoroha, who pulled out the grimace on the charming fox face. Suddenly, the spinning Kami turtle slowed down. And a jet, black energy shockwave followed closely and pushed towards the Kamui turtle in midair. Kami turtle, use hold. In the face of such a situation, Xiaomao had to keep the key skills useful. Instant. A layer of green energy shield suddenly rose, wrapping the Kami turtle facing the dark blast. The dark torrent came in an instant. But under Xiaomao's astonished gaze, the jet-black torrent directly penetrated the shield formed by the guarding skills and the Kami turtle. Afterwards, it dissipated in midair as if it had lost its color. The Kamui tortoise, which was stretched one by one, suddenly fell to the ground, the shield shattered, and the head emerged from the tortoise shell, and it also stumbled forward a few steps. Not good. Xiaomao's face changed suddenly, a flash of light flashed in his mind, and he recalled in vain the snap of his fingers that Baizi had snapped before. And, Soraya's weird, hiding, skills. Xiaomao looked up suddenly, and sure enough, he saw Soraya's familiar petite figure under the ceiling again, which was rapidly falling in the direction of Kamui. Between the small front claws, a group of extremely unstable purple-black energy balls agitated, as if it might explode at any time. Kami turtle, be careful, head. Before Xiaomao could finish speaking, Zoroha in the air had already launched an attack, and his swift body, body slammed down, pushing a large amount of evil-type energy factors compressed to the extreme, bombarding him subconsciously. Kamui, who is holding his head and squatting in defense, is on the turtle body. Bang bang bang, the black energy blasted in all directions with Zoroja's palms as the center, forming a small semi-circular rotating energy field. And Kamui has withstood the full power of the dark blast without any waste, and was directly involved in the center of the energy shock. You commanded Zoroya to defeat Ogi Shigeru's Kamui. A little gain. Battle experience +5, Zoroya experience +8, imitate proficiency, proficiency +1, ghost face proficiency, proficiency +1, shoot down proficiency, proficiency +1, random grasping proficiency, proficiency +1, provocation proficiency, proficiency +1 x5, a CBH, dark blasting proficiency, proficiency +1. With the sound of the system, the smoke screen dissipated. The evil energy factor around him was constantly surging but being suppressed. Zoroha was stepping on the back of the Kamui turtle, holding his head high, and letting out a long howl that belonged to the victor. Ooh tilde tilde tilde. While howling, he carefully glanced at the eye beads, and kept sweeping towards Baizi's face with the corner of his eye. That petite little appearance of being a thief with a guilty conscience is simply adorable. Puchi, Bai Zedong, Shiren, no, stop chuckling softly. And Zoroya's eyes lit up at once. With her short legs striding forward, she threw herself into Baizi's arms, and acted coquettishly. You. Baizi Ren, Buiyu tapped Soraya's forehead with a little force, and sighed helplessly. He wasn't actually too angry. It's just that Zoroja's sudden action made him a little suspicious and irritable. After we go back, let's talk about today's affairs slowly. With that said, Baizi rubbed his hands ruthlessly, like kneading dough. Oh, 7 Q tilde tilde tilde, Zoroha whimpered at the moment. At first, it was fine. But after listening to it, Baizi suddenly felt that something was wrong, because Zoroya's voice gradually became more and more lingering. It didn't seem like he was begging for mercy, but instead it was full of the famous, happy means. Over there, Xiaomao also brought the mysterious water droplets to Kamui and put them back into the Pokeball. As expected of Brother Baizi, once I get serious, I have no power to fight back. Slightly sighed. Although there was unwillingness in his eyes, Xiaomao, who looked very calm, made Dr. Omu endure. No, smile. On the other hand, Xiaoji felt an unprecedented sense of unfamiliarity. It was as if the most important enemy in his heart from childhood to adulthood was about to completely distance himself from him at this moment. This inexplicable feeling of panic made him a little inexplicably irritable. And not only that. Although the battle is not over yet, Xiaomao's performance is far superior to his own strength, which also makes Xiaoji's heart messed up. It turns out that before he knew it, he had been thrown so far by Xiaomao. For the first time in my life. Ash fell into deep thinking. Listening to Xiaomao's sigh, Baizi, who temporarily cast aside the strange thoughts in his mind, raised his eyebrows slightly, and said with a light smile, "Why, you recognize the gap, aren't you ready to continue fighting?" "How is it possible?" Xiaomao answered neatly, "Fleeing without a fight is not my young master's style." "Oh. Brother Baizi, let me see your true strength in the last game." Xiaomao's eyes filled with flames of war. "I want to fight a big needle bee. I want to know, how far is it from you?" "Is that so? Well." Baizi nodded slightly, and casually placed Zoroya with a horse-killing chicken expression on his shoulders, and took out the Pokeball from the front of his waist. Tap the button. The luxury ball the size of a ping-pong ball swelled to the size of a tennis ball. A flash of red and white flashed, revealing the metallic-colored figure of a large needle bee at the moment of landing, standing still with a gun, the insect's eyes drooping, like a static sculpture, silent. Chapter 128. A terrifying blow. The little guy who came out of the balcony, please order. This tingling sensation, feels. Xiaomao's face tightened, and at the moment when this big needle bee appeared, he was in the opposite position, and his whole body seemed to be electrified, from the scalp to the heels. Touch your arm. The frying hairs and the grainy feeling that emerges prove that this is not an illusion. This feeling, is this the real strength of Brother Bai Zi? Xiao Mao forcibly suppressed the throbbing in his heart, made some adjustments, took a deep breath, and threw the luxurious ball that was already in his hand. The last game, I'll leave it to you. Hey, the yellow and white pokey ball crossed an arc in mid-air. A click sound. A fox-like elf appeared in the field, with most of the fur on its body brown, and the tip of its neck and tail with cream-colored rabbit ears. It is the evolution of Pokemon, Eevee. Boy tilde. Ibrahimovic touched the ground with all 4 feet, and after shaking his body for a while, he leaned over slightly and made a gesture of preparation for an attack. Open black lens bracket race. Ibrahimovic close black lens bracket. Attribute, general. Feature, adaptability. Level, elite height level 33, 15/100. Potential, champion. HP, 55, attack, 55, defense, 50, special attack, 45, special defense, 65, speed, 55. Skills, desire, help, cry, crash, tail wagging, sand splashing, lightning flash, high-speed star, bite, emulate, shadow ball. Genetic skills, crazy, double kicks. Open black lens bracket status, perfect close black lens bracket. Introduction. Ibrahimovic with extraordinary aptitude has a naturally strong physique and offensive desire, and has a very good ability to comprehend evil factors. Nice Ibrahimovic. Bai Zi praised. This is not a lie. Excluding the investigation results of Bai Zi's power, this Ibrahimovic is quite perfect in terms of body, spirit, energy, and even the exuberance and restraint of fighting spirit. It can be seen that Xiao Mao cultivated it very well. Over the top. Bai Zi's approval made Xiao Mao involuntarily show a look of joy, but he quickly restrained his smile and asked nervously, as if he was facing a great enemy, Brother Bai Zi, we can start. Of course. Bai Zi nodded, signaling Xiao Mao to attack first. Then I'm welcome. Xiao Mao immediately waved his hand and ordered in a deep voice, Ibrahimovic, run up and use the shadow clone. Then use the flash of electric light to approach the enemy. Boy tilde. Ibrahimovic moved when he heard the sound, and under the high-speed movement, he would spread all over the field, surrounded by the big needle bees, and at the same time, a golden electric light lit up from all the Ibrahimovic bodies, and quickly walk spread the whole body. The next second, the speed of these Ibrahimovic suddenly skyrocketed. Oh! Is it a combination skill again? Seeing that the figure of Ibrahimovic, whose whole body was covered with electric light, became more and more, and gradually approached the giant needle bee, Bai Zi remained calm. Although this Ibrahimovic's performance is really good, compared with his own big needle bee, the gap is still not a star. On the field, I saw Ibrahimovic's core getting closer and closer. Without Bai Zi's order, the giant stinger suddenly moved. I saw the shape of the giant needle bee, which was standing still, with a sudden sway, as if the virtual and the real were blurred for a moment. Next second, numerous, big needle bees were scattered all over the venue, and it had to be said that there was exactly one behind each, Ibrahimovic. Then, the needle arm pierced straight down like a gun. Bang, 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 the continuous explosion of gas, accompanied by bursts of smoke after the shadow clone was blasted, gradually spread until it enveloped the audience. Ibrahimovic! Xiao Mao suddenly exclaimed, but there was silence in the smoke screen, and nothing came out. After a while, the smoke screen dissipated. The scene in the field was finally revealed in front of everyone's eyes. Ibrahimovic, who was full of fighting spirit before, was frozen in place like a sculpture. On its back, a large needle bee faced it, a needle shining with blue energy. The tip of the arm is firmly on the back of Ibrahimovic's head. Although there is not the slightest hint of air. But that horrific deadly crisis still made Ibrahimovic freeze in place, as if frozen. The joints of the whole body are like grouting, and they can't even move. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Suddenly, a series of fine molars suddenly sounded, and then, in the slightly surprised eyes of the big needle bee, this Ibrahimovic did not care about the key points. Pressing the ground with the forefoot, the body suddenly shrank downwards, and the hind legs kicked the giant stinger behind him like a rabbit kicking an eagle. The sound of a sharp weapon cutting through flesh and blood, and a small piece of blood splattered. However, Ibrahimovic's hind feet had already touched the belly of the giant hornbee, and the fighting energy factor surrounding it also burst into a ray of light, kicking fiercely on the belly of the giant hornbee. Double kick. Hit. Xiao Mao's eyes lit up, and he unconsciously clenched his fists and murmured. Have to say. Although there was a slight error in the choice of skills, Ibrahimovic's performance of the Jedi counterattack was indeed eye-catching. But, puff, poof, two bursts of air came out one after another. This was like a blow from an antelope with its horns hanging on it, but it seemed like a phantom that penetrated through the body of the giant needle bee. Boy! Ibrahimovic was stunned for a moment, staggering slightly to stabilize his body, which was somewhat unstable because of the kick. But then, a strong sense of oppression in front of him made him turn his head suddenly. Swish, one by one, the giant needle bee that had appeared in front of it at an unknown time finally made a move again, and I saw it slammed a lance-like giant, large needle, thorn, and a faint energy armor covered it. Above, in the violent wind breaking, a tiny white mark exploded in the void. Boom! The belated explosion in the ear was accompanied by the remaining force to overturn it completely. Gudong tilde. Outside the arena, facing the platform, looking at the obvious cracks and holes on the front semi-circular crystal shield, Xiao Mao swallowed a mouthful of spit involuntarily. He is not someone who doesn't know the goods. The thing in front of him is completely enough to effectively block the full-strength blow of the quasi-Tianwang energy level. But now, it has been directly cracked and pierced by the energy of the big needle bee's volley. Heaven, Heavenly King. Xiao Mao's voice was dry, and the corner of his mouth pulled out a smile that was uglier than crying. Zero. Ask for flowers. It's just a quasi-celestial king. There is still a gap between the Heavenly King level. Baizi shook his head and comforted. Yes, is it? Xiao Maoyi looked in disbelief. Moreover, he was not comforted at all. Just a quasi-celestial king. Brother Baizi, you use the word, only, really well. Baizi didn't say much. Because what he said was true. The giant stinger is still in the high-level quasi-kingdom. The reason why he was able to hit a blow comparable to the Heavenly King just now was entirely because of the superposition of the gauntlets. The extinguishing needle, thorn once again happened to hit a 5-fold increase in damage. When Xiao Mao took back Ibrahimovic, who was also somewhat hit. This temporary challenge has officially come to an end. There is no system notification sound representing victory, because this is not considered a battle at all in the eyes of Big Needlebee. Your Big Needlebee fully exerts 1 time gauntlet plus extinction needle, stab trick, slightly gained, gauntlet proficiency, experience plus 1, extinction needle, stab proficiency, stab plus 1. In the evening of that day, in the parlor on the first floor of the Ramperky Hotel. After retrieving the elf healed by Miss Joy, and having a rare dinner together, Xiao Mao bid farewell. This time, he didn't drive a luxury car or bring his girlfriends, but put on rain clothes alone, facing the rain curtain, and embarked on a brand new journey. And Xiaoji, who seemed very silent today, ignored Xiaogang and Xiaosha's objections. He was beaten down by Xiao Mao not far away. He rushed out of the Ramperky Hotel and quickly disappeared into the rain curtain. In. Xiaogang and Xiaosha had no choice but to keep up. However, Baizi obviously has no plans to travel in the rain. What's more, he still has some things that need to be figured out before continuing the trip. Drop. After helping Nazi unlock the door to room 601 on the top floor of the hotel, and set everything up, Baizi returned to room 602 opposite. After a simple wash, Baizi, who did not release all the elves as usual, took out Zoroha's Pokeball separately, and after dawdling for a while, he stretched out his hand and clicked on the button in the center of the Pokeball. Go! At this moment, wooed Tilda, accompanied by a slightly confused childish cry. Slap! On the balcony under a curtain of rain, first a pair of white wings like palms climbed out. Immediately afterwards, there was a small white head with a blue mask, protruding furtively, with moist eyes, which immediately met Z's eyes. Fuck, trough. P.S. I saw a book friend put forward. Come, let me clarify here. Let's go. It is impossible for people to show, except for Shinado, that's it. 1. ** a few. Chapter 129. Lugia, you can't kill me. For full order. Eulala, the rain is getting heavier and heavier, and the torrential rain pours down like a floodgate. It spills on the balcony and shoots countless arrows. The scenery outside the window also became more and more blurred, and the torrential rain seemed to cast a veil on everything, making it difficult to see. The dark clouds rolled, and the angry waves roared. Although it is evening. But the gloomy sky has disappeared without a trace of light, and the black cloud is pressing down on the city, as if it is about to collapse. And this moment. It is located in Suite 602 of the Rampart Grand Hotel, which is far from the coast but has just the right view of the sea. Baizi Zhengyi, teased and fed with a weird face, this little guy who looks like a pterosaur and a bird and a beast. Lugia. Yes, he was holding a Lugia cub in his arms, and this Lugia cub was the little guy who climbed up from the rain curtain on the balcony before. For some reason, this little guy seems to have a very high innate intimacy with him. It was only the first time we met, and after creeping over to sniff it, he flew into his arms and began to whimper and beg for food. Really, that's not treating yourself as a 3, 2, 3 outsider at all. At first, he thought it was because of the God summoning conch. But found out after trying it. The little guy didn't seem to have much reaction to the God summoning conch, but after fiddling with it twice, he pushed it aside. Then, he leaned into his arms again, twisting and rolling, as if he didn't treat him as an outsider. This intimacy seems to come from him. Wooed Tilda. Thinking about it in his heart, Baizi fed little Lugia a super energy cube. In the other party's cheerful whimper, his blue eyes shone with a splendid brilliance that no one could see. In an instant, rows of data panels appeared in his eyes. 1. Elf, Lugia. Attribute, Super Energy, Flying System. Characteristics, Pressure, Multiple Scales, Monty. Level, Beginner Novice, Level 12, 61/100. Potential, Level 1 God. HP, 106, Attack, 90, Defense, 130, Special Attack, 90, Special Defense, 154, Speed, 110. Exclusive Skill, Air Blast, Cyclone Attack, Strike. Skills, Blow, Weather Ball, Rain, Supernatural Power, Water Gun, Mysterious Guardian, Self-Regeneration. Status, Extremely Poor, being continuously infected by evil spirit energy. Introduction. As the only child of the newly born god beast, god of the sea, Lugia, the potential is huge but still very weak, but anyone who wants to harm its existence must bear the sea god Rocky Ya's anger. Close black lens bracket. It turned out to be the divine beast with the authority of the top legendary group, the child of the god of the sea, Lugia. And, or a newborn cub. What are you kidding? How could Poseidon Lugia allow one of her children, Wowed Tilda. The little Lugia in her arms suddenly let out a soft cry, her cheeks were bulging, and her big moist eyes stared at Baizi's eyes that were looking down, suddenly stopped chewing and smiled brightly at Baizi. All right. Shao K, love. How could one, a little cute, love be allowed to stay out of its sight and come alone to the dangerous human world? Is your heart so big? As a god of duty, doesn't it know at all what it means when a top-level legendary cub is exposed to the eyes of human beings like his own child? and continued to be infected by evil spirit energy. Baizi's eyes narrowed in vain, and the expression in his eyes fluctuated violently. The cubs of the gods, who were under the black hands of people. This was the thought flashing across his mind. Immediately afterwards, another doubt arose again. Who is it, who has the ability, and the courage to assassinate a top legend with a group, and is still a cub of a god? Evil words. Yveltal. But it shouldn't. Not to mention that Yveltal stretched Carlos out of reach. Even if there is hatred between the two sides, according to the performance of this guy in the original book, there is really hatred. I am afraid that he would kill him directly. Where would he do this? In vain, he lost the face of his god of destruction. Besides, it's not that Carlos didn't check and balance its existence, not to mention its old rival, Xerneas, the god of life. Just that Zygarde, who has a strong sense of responsibility and always talks about balance and order, is afraid that Yveltal will not be disturbed. So why is it? At this moment, Baizi's brain was a mess. But there is one thing. Baizi has vaguely understood how this sudden and intensifying torrential rain came about. According to legend, if Lugia just waved her wings, it would cause a 40-day storm. And now, what kind of turmoil will a Lugia mother who may have lost her cub cause? I'm afraid, this storm is just a precursor. So, do you want to blow this god-calling conch? Baizi's expression was uncertain. He is also not sure what kind of state Lugia is in at this time. Ellipsis. If you are in a runaway state, you will explode in the air when you meet. Rub. Wasn't he wrong to die? But if you can't solve this matter, the ghost knows what kind of turmoil a runaway official divine beast will cause. Was thinking about it. Woo tilde tilde tilde. A low, deep whining sound came. Baizi looked down, and the black lines climbed up little Lugia's body, causing the whole body of the little family to tremble involuntarily. Come on, the little face is wrinkled and looks very painful. Don't be afraid, it'll be fine soon tilde. Baizi's expression tightened, and he didn't dare to think about anything else. He quickly picked up little Lugia and comforted him. The power of Baizi in his body surged out madly. At the same time, deep sea. In the trench under 10,000 meters, a white silhouette like a bird flew down like an arrow, and soon, entered a dark cave. Gululu, between the surging bubbles and the flashes of light and darkness, a white silhouette crosses over, revealing her figure. A gigantic figure just like little Lugia. It is the sea god Lugia. But at this moment, the Lugia clan's official deity is uncharacteristically, the manic super power factor, flight factor and even the power of authority are constantly surging, giving people a feeling that it may explode at any time. It quickly scanned the bright cave that was different from the outside world. In the end, he aimed his gaze at the deepest part, the gray, black figure locked by countless honeycomb-shaped divine power barriers. The body of this figure is surging with layers of thick black mist. It seems that the light will be swallowed up at the moment of approaching, making it impossible to see its true appearance at all. Is it you? Tell me, what the hell did you do to my child? This voice of the soul affected reality almost like a substance, and waves of ripples were brought about in the bright cave. It's terrifying, Lord Sea God. The voice, sound from the fog had obvious banter, and a deep malice permeated the cave. I just gave that curious little guy a little gift, by the way. Showed it a clear path, hey tilde. Looking for death. This laughter obviously ignited Lugia's anger, and it was not seen that it moved. The surging mental power instantly invaded the divine power barrier, and gradually solidified and turned into a solid state. Then, as Lugia flapped her wings, a dull explosion sounded with a low, deep painful groan. The mist-wrapped figure was stubbornly pressed on the divine power barrier. The sound of creaking is like grinding skin and bones. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. But even so, the gray-black figure still showed an extra 1.7 points of madness, and shouted with a long smile, "Don't bother, Lugia, this divine barrier trapped me, but it also protected me. Hee hee, unless you open the divine power barrier, you can't kill me. You bastard. Lugia's silver teeth were almost shattered, and the energy fluctuations around her body spread to the outside world, causing the entire sea to vibrate even more. And with the neutralization of this vast super power factor fluctuation, the mist composed of the materialized evil energy factors gradually dissipated. A figure trapped within the barrier of divine power is revealed. P.S. God of the Sea, it has always been the honorary title of Lugia in Guandu, and of course, there is also the title of God of Wind, which is circulated in Fenglai City, but the authority is based on the original Pokemon history. In order to maintain the ocean current, Lugia was born in the ocean current. As for Kyogre, it is the super ancient spirit who created the sea, and its authority is set to ocean. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the picture. Chapter 130, Shin Mi. Decline, Punish the Heart. For full order. Its image is very similar to the one outside the barrier, Lugia. But the difference is that its overall color is darker, purple and black all over, but the mask, back and abdomen are gray and white. The eyes are not as black and white as Lugia's. Blood red like blood, and it was impossible to tell whether the white of the eye was between the eyes of the pupil, and there were two gray-white circles in the middle. In addition, the water chestnut skeleton and even the back stand like a twisted bone sword, and the sharp claws are like the scythe of a falcon. Full of tyrannical, terrifying predators. This is a Flash Lugia in an alienated form. Or rather, Dark Lugia. Lugia's gentle eyes in the past turned gloomy at this time, because he knew very well what kind of existence this guy who belonged to the same family as him was. In the distant Middle Ages, after being honored by the people of Meteor as the great god of the sky, the Lugia clan, who have been working on sorting out the earth currents, has ushered in the most prosperous period. The number of ethnic groups exceeded 100. Among them, 1/5 of Lugia who set foot in the realm of the gods. Moreover, in addition to the chief deity Lugia, the clan also gave birth to 3 other Lugias who set foot in the realm of the first-level gods. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is an overlord-level legendary group in the Middle Ages. Even the Cracked Sea clan may not be inferior in terms of high-end combat power, but compared to the number of groups, it is just a sigh. But this heyday only lasted less than 500 years. Because, among the 3 newly promoted Lugias who have set foot in the first-level god realm, there is a lunatic who is desperate for the pursuit of power. And this madman is the Dark Lugia who was blocked by the divine power barrier in the trench cave. This guy, just like the little girl in the Cracked Space clan in the past few hundred years, has an almost crazy obsession with power. But it's not the same as that, only Rizaraza, which also belongs to the xenochromatic race. Dark Lugia, who is not comparable to its talent, does not rely on tempering, but wants to take shortcuts, devour the same family, and replenish its source power to strengthen itself. This method is obviously evil. But it has indeed brought Dark Lugia an extraordinary promotion speed. In just over 400 years, it has faintly set foot on the first-level god's peak, which is comparable to the posture of the official god Lugia. But there is no wall that does not leak the wind. What's more, the disappearance of a small number of ethnic groups has also made the center of the Lugia ethnic group vigilant. Finally, in order to break through the level of the first-level god peak, when he stretched his hand to one of them, Lugia, who only stepped into the first-level god's domain, he was seriously injured by sneak attack, and he couldn't wait to devour it. Lugia, hit me right. The war inevitably unfolded between these 2 Lugias, and gradually spread to the entire Lugia tribe. Although Diablo Lugia was once seriously injured by the cleric god Lugia Hammer and was dying. But relying on sneak attacks and devouring the same clan, the Dark Lugia actually became stronger and stronger in this battle, and gradually reached the point of being evenly matched with the official god Lugia. In order not to let the Lugia family suffer even more heavy losses, the cleric god Lugia finally came to a bitter end, tore up his own authority and inherited it to the only remaining first-level god in the clan, Lugia, which is now the sea god Lugia. And he himself, at the cost of his life, sealed Dark Lugia in the trench cave. After this battle, the Lugia ethnic group inevitably fell into decline. There are not 1 in 10 clan members. Lugia, who has set foot in the realm of gods, counts the new sea gods, and there are only 3 remaining. It can be said that this guy in front of him is the culprit behind the decline of the Lugia tribe. It is also their Lugia clan, the enemy of life and death. Like it said by itself. If it weren't for the blocking of this divine power barrier, the sea god Lugia would have already smashed this guy to ashes. How could it still exist in this world? But you don't have to be delusional. Lugia's expression was indifferent. No matter what method and rhetoric you use, I will never let you out. A scum like you is only worthy of being imprisoned within this inch and suffering evil forever and ever. Corrosion of the factor. Quote. After finishing speaking, it will turn around and leave this place, following the residual breath to find little Lugia. 6 inches Dark Lugia's complexion sank visibly to the naked eye. But then, the corners of its mouth widened, lying on the transparent barrier of the crystal of divine power, and pulled out a smiling face called Yanyi. Hey, but is this really good? Lugia froze, while Dark Lugia's sound continued. Speaking of, come on, that little guy is so cute, he called me uncle when he came in. Hey Tilda. Diablo Lugia's voice was full of malice. You know best what kind of bird I am. The eldest niece is so cute and polite, how can I be indifferent? So how can I let the little guy returning empty-handed? What the hell did you do? Go a little, you. Lugia's pupils shrank, and the Dark Lugia suddenly turned his playful gaze to its eyes. This is the evil origin chi that can evolve into the natural world and the treasures of heaven and earth. How can such a good thing only give me a bird to enjoy? Of course, I have to give it to my eldest niece. Here, Loki Yaden, his eyes were splitting. And what Diablo Lugia said next made a hum in his mind, and 323 seemed to explode. Speaking, at this time, the evil factor may have begun to erode the body, right? I understand this feeling, it's really painful. And it won't take long for a young life to live. Is about to pass away. The most important thing is that the little guy who has been eroded by the evil factor, it is difficult for you to find it. Ha ha ha. Dark Lugia let out a crazy long laugh, and even fell into the divine power barrier, laughing all over his body. Boom, the string in Lugia's heart was completely broken. In the next second, his body broke through the cover layer outside the cave like a sharp arrow, with a sharp burst of air, straight to the sea. In the cave, the chaotic airflow was wanton, scraping down the ground rock wall. Soon, in the cave that had regained its tranquility, Dark Lugia, who was curled up in the barrier of divine power, slowly got up. Taking a deep breath, the evil, type origin chi that floated all over the body, which was used for punishment, was directly stored in the body, and the corner of the mouth, a gradually unbridled smile, slowly emerged. Chapter 131. Breaking Out. The Name of the King. For full order. Finally, it's finally time to wait until this day. A faint murmur came from the divine power barrier, and the smile at the corner of Dark Lugia's mouth became more and more public. It turned over, leaned on one end of the divine power barrier in a very leisurely manner, and waited quietly. Actually, this prisoner's divine power barrier has been unable to trap it since it completely transformed its superpower attributes into evil more than 100 years ago. Although it is not easy to break it, but with some effort, it is not difficult to get out of this east-west. However, since the incident of that year, Lugia, the sea god, has been attached at all times for more than 2,000 years, and has always maintained a specific distance to guard it. This is hard, suffering. No matter how fast he broke the seal of divine power, he would not be able to break it with one blow. But at the speed of the other party, at such a small distance, at full speed, it can be done in the blink of an eye. Until then, you don't have to think about it to know that the other party will definitely find a way to strengthen the seal and guard it strictly, then it will be trapped in this trench cave. Therefore, Diablo Lugia has been thinking about how to lure this guy away and make it impossible to get back in a short period of time. If you think about it, there is nothing you can do for hundreds of years. But the opportunity suddenly appeared inadvertently. When the little guy came in from outside the cave, Dark Lugia knew that the opportunity it had been waiting for had come. Time passed by minute. Relying in the cave of the trench, the Dark Lugia on the side of the divine power barrier closed his eyes and adjusted his breath as if the old god was there, and his palm-like wings were placed on his belly, tapping one. And along with this, next, knock, the smile at the corners of its mouth is also constantly expanding. Finally, dong, accompanied by a banging sound like a bell and drum, obviously unable to control the force, Dark Lugia suddenly turned over. Ha 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 ha. I knew it, I knew you couldn't bear it. I'm today. Diablo Lugia took a deep breath, and then, a shriek with ripples in the air suddenly came out, finally free. Om, accompanied by the scream, a circle of darkness mixed with the air mass vortex of particles condensed from between its closed wings, and the next second, this mutated air blast was pushed directly above the divine power barrier. Zzz, click. A distorted pitch, black electric light suddenly rose from the moment the two came into contact, and under the light and dark light, the divine power barrier suddenly cracked with a spider-like pattern. But this divine power barrier seems to be quite tenacious, and it seems to consciously begin to absorb the bright spar from the cave. If anyone is here, it must be recognized that the fluorescent stones, piled up like weeds in this cave are all super-energy core spar stones that are worth thousands of gold. Also, the quality is quite high. But at this time, these super-energy system core spar is like a charging treasure by the magical barrier madly absorbed, used to restore the crack caused by the attack of the Dark Lugia. Soon, the spar in the cave the pieces were scattered and turned into powder. But the cracks above the divine power barrier not only did not disappear, but gradually touched every part of the divine power barrier. Kacha, the sound of cracking, kept coming. And right now, boom, the sound of water piercing through the hole came, and the familiar white figure descended into the cave again. It's Lugia who goes back and forth. But, ha 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 ha. Sure enough, you still split phantom. Dark Lugia was not surprised but delighted after seeing the visitor, black mist surging around her body, and she pushed forward with a long smile. Next second, kacha, boom. In the successive cracking sounds, a spiral column of air mixed with black energy particles slammed into Lugia's direction. In the face of the other party's sudden change, it went straight through the other party's chest and abdomen, and a loud explosion sounded in the trench behind him. The next second, the seawater poured back, completely filling the entire cave. HMPH, it's not too stupid, I know how to use the phantom body to check the situation. Looking at Lugia's phantom body, which was silent, staring at himself, and gradually dissipated into little particles of light, a look of disappointment flashed in the Dark Lugia's eyes, and he snorted. In the case of knowing the situation of little Lugia, and there is no way to check the breath of little Lugia. It has already been predicted that Lugia will use a lot of phantoms to search in all directions regardless of everything. Each phantom body is a nerf. At that time, the power left to Lugia's body will inevitably be continuously reduced. And once it tries to break through the divine barrier, can Lugia, who is in charge of staying behind, really stop it? The answer, of course, is unstoppable. Only a pity. It was not Lugia's body that was responsible for staying behind. Otherwise, it will not only be able to get out of the predicament successfully, but also when it is out of the predicament, it will be able to understand the inevitable enemy in the future. Forget it, if the phantom body is broken, it will also hurt the body. Not to mention, I have another feast for you. Gululu, Dark Lugia with a wicked smile, fluttered her wings, under the advancement of surging air bubbles and water currents. After, flying, exited the cave, he turned around and shot towards the deeper place under the trench. Azure Mountains. A crater, in Bululu, with a burst of bubbles, who was bathed in the magma, opened his eyes and looked towards the southern sea. This familiar evil breath, could it be? Ho! Wang's face changed. As a top legend that has inhabited the sky above Kanto since ancient times, how could it not know about Dark Lugia, which was born almost with the origin Lugia? However, although the sea gods in this area are slightly inferior to Lugia in terms of authority, they only inherited the role of ocean current. However, in terms of strength, it is not inferior to the previous origin Lugia, and it is worthy of the title of the god of duty. It wasn't worried that a guy, who had been imprisoned for so long, would be Lugia's opponent. Of course, this is just one of the reasons. The main reason is that the ability to forcibly summon an illusory body in a short period of time is not something that can be used at will. After the battle with the Black Flash Crack, in order not to affect the Phantom's duty, it split again and did not reduce the Phantom's energy level, which also caused it to fall into an unprecedented weakness. Oh, don't get me wrong, as the most fleshy one among the first-level gods, the special life force it possesses will not cause it to suffer any serious injuries at all. After all, this is the terrifying power that can resurrect the dead. But the consumption of that battle is real. After that, as the body that bears all the injuries, it undergoes split phantom body and self-healing, as if its body, internal energy consumption is very serious. Simply put, it is in a period of weakness. Therefore, for Lugia's housework, it is obviously a little helpless. I hope Lugia can solve that guy as soon as possible, otherwise, the first-level gods will collide with each other for a long time, but it will affect the whole world. At the same time, it is located on the crown snowfield in the Galar region, which is hundreds of millions of miles away from the Kanto region. Giant Tree Hill, as its name suggests, is a towering tree in the center of this peninsula surrounded by lakes on three sides. This is a giant ancient tree that is difficult for dozens of people to close together. The leaves like red maple flutter in the wind, and fallen leaves are scattered from time to time, which is extremely beautiful. And under this ancient tree, chirp tilde, sea tilde, goo tilde, accompanied by the golden current, the black-red flames and the blue streamer light spots, three birds with very different shapes, exuding a fierce breath, appeared almost indiscriminately under the trees on the peninsula. They are exactly the three divine birds in the Galar region, also known as the lightning bird, the flaming bird and the frozen bird. But what's interesting is that the divine bird called lightning bird has no electricity type, the divine bird called flame bird has no fire type, and the divine bird called frozen bird also has no ice type. Instead, they are fighting flying, evil flying, and superpower flying. And there's a reason for that, of course. Goo woo woo tilde, you should have noticed it. The change of body, inner laws. Right, full of mystery, the Galar frozen bird with a dark mask spoke first, breaking the silence between the three. Ju yi tilde, yes, it's a family guy. The whole body was burning with black and red flames, and the Galar flame bird, which was full of demonic and evil aura at a glance, said, it's definitely a guy who broke the seal. C tilde, what should we do? That guy forcibly transformed us into subordinate gods back then, and until now, the power of this residual law is still affecting our minds. Now it breaks through the seal, I'm afraid we won't be allowed to exile. Quote. The last one, the ostrich, like Galar lightning, electric okay bird, covered in orange fried hair, also spoke with a very irritable tone. Ju fan tilde, the big deal is death, I will not be controlled by that guy again. Galar firebird's tone was decisive. The other two divine birds looked at each other in silence. That incident back then was a shame to them, but to the flaming bird, it was not only a shame, but a deep-seated hatred and pain that was as hot as a flame. Goo woo woo tilde, okay, let's wait and see what happens. After all, this crown on the snowy plain is not without a lord. Galar frozen bird said slowly. Galar lightning bird's eyes lit up, and Galar firebird, who had eased a little, also nodded slowly. Having survived for nearly 2,000 years, it is naturally impossible for them to be unaware of the true power that exists on this land. That is, a first-level god with the name of King. P.S. The last 2 chapters are quite difficult to write. I tried my best to maintain the top legend in the plots in various circles of anime, such as the setting of Phantom Body, and the back-face theatrical version of Rocky. The reason why ya can't easily defeat the 3 god birds and so on. It is not too much for me to ask for a wave of data, ~03. Chapter 132, Future Combat Power Time Limit Card, Super Dream. Please order all. At this moment, Dark Lugia has reached the bottom of the sea. In this dark place, a ring-shaped water current that ordinary people cannot see keeps flowing in a certain direction along an inexplicable pattern, forming a long ring of water that spreads on the seabed of the deep sea. On. This is here, ley lines. Ocean currents. Dark Lugia fluttered her wings and approached this illusory leyline current. This is the talent of their Lugia clan. You can clearly see the talent of the ocean currents, the core ley lines that support the planet's climate change. It's a familiar and magnificent sight. Tisk tilde. It's a pity. While whispering softly, Dark Lugia folded her wings and burrowed into the long annular water belt like a swimming fish. The illusory water belt seemed to be awakened, trembling, and the sudden strong repulsive force almost pushed Dark Lugia straight out. Such a power! The mighty power of the planet! Dark Lugia pulled out a slightly wanton smile from the corner of his mouth, and then, the sudden wings that were originally tucked in by his side shook. A layer of pitch-black mist gradually spread over the whole body, and turned into a layer of energy cloak to completely envelop it. With sharp teeth, the twisted form is like an evil dragon covered. 323. Dragon God swoops. Next second. A sharp tearing sound resounded in this silent deep sea, and the Dark Lugia wrapped in the dragon element had a distorted expression, going upstream with the momentum of soaring to the sky, and laying down in the opposite direction towards the earth and ocean currents. Push away. Gollum. The bottom of the sea was like boiling water with bubbles, and with the advancement of Dark Lugia, the seawater on both sides was actually a depression visible to the naked eye, pushing away to both sides. The billowing ocean current is like a mountain. Soon. Another layer of splendid blue light covered Dark Lugia's body, and after a brief stalemate, the next second. Boom. With a huge roar, this leyline ocean current was directly smashed by Dark Lugia. It turned into a turbulent stream, stirring like a snake. The sea, stir up, come. Kacha, lightning flashes in the sky. Illuminated a pure, white bird's body in the cloud. Lugia. At this moment, the rolling dark clouds in the sky seemed to be stirred up by a giant stick that lifted the sky. Countless airflow tornadoes connected the sea and the sky one after another. Under the sea surface, the vortices gradually rise and turn into bottomless ocean, ACBH, ocean vortices. Woo tilde. Lugia made a long cry, and the wings of the sharp fan blew away the dark clouds, defeated the tornado, and calmed the current vortex. But, after a while, the dark clouds reappeared, the tornado rose again, and the vortices appeared one by one on the sea surface. Yes, earth currents. Lugia, whose breath was a little sluggish, struggled to speak, the blue veins on her forehead kept bursting out, and her face was devoured by choosing someone. Up to now, it still can't guess Dark Lugia's abacus. First, use your own children as bait to tune the tiger away from the mountain, then take the opportunity to weaken your own strength, and then disrupt the geology and ocean currents. This set of links is intertwined. I am afraid that it will no longer have the energy to manage the escape of Dark Lugia and the no matter, love it. Lugia was impatient. The mother and daughter are connected, and the in-depth induction makes it very clear that his cub is indeed constantly weakening. But if you let it be ignored by the ley lines and ocean currents, its impact can also be called world-class. At that time, I am afraid I do not know how many casualties of humans and even elves will be caused. When Lugia was in a dilemma. Lugia raised his head suddenly, the feeling in the dark suddenly changed, and his child's weakness seemed to be abruptly stopped. Moreover, without the shield of the evil spirit power, it sensed the breath of its own child again. This is human. His eyes flickered, but soon, Lugia resolutely plunged into the sea. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. At the same time. Inside Suite 602 of the Rampart Hotel. Woo Tilda. Accompanied by a childish soft moan, little Lugia, whose expression was soothed, rubbed Baizi's palm, and narrowed her eyes in a bit of distress. Status. Good, tired. Withdrawing his gaze, he found out that little Lugia was just a tired Baiziwei, slightly relieved. Then, he squinted his eyes slightly towards the black smoke that he expelled from little Lugia's body. This smoke is like a living creature twisting in a snake coil in midair. It actually gave him a kind of eagerness to try to attack him. Or rather, to attack the little Lugia in his arms. This east, west. The brows twitched unconsciously, and in the next second, the burning white thought force all over the power of Baizi suddenly gathered and imprisoned him. At the same time, the power of exploration swept straight through Dark Lugia's spiritual evil thoughts. It is composed of special evil origin energy and spiritual power, only instinct, no wisdom, and has no effect on life, especially supernatural power. The erosion of energy system life forms is very serious. Note, contaminated with this breath, it will attract the attention of the top legend Diablo Lugia. The black air was instantly squeezed by Baizi. And his face, color, is also very bad looking. It's obviously not simple, and it can't be any kind of kindness to do such a thing to an elf cub, especially the cub of the cleric god Lugia. Therefore, it is probably not a good thing to be noticed by such an existence. No. It should be said that he has already been targeted. Baizi's eyes flashed, and his eyes swept over the sleeping little Lugia. Dark Lugia. From this name, it can probably be concluded that this should be an alienation from the Lugia tribe, or rather, a flash individual. As for strength, even if the child of Lugia, the goddess who dares to act as a yin, is weak, I am afraid that it will not be weak. Therefore, the minimum strength estimate is a first-level god. To be honest, Baizi's mood is somewhat depressed when such a great enemy is outside. Fortunately, he is not a person without background. Mashadow's master Feng Wang pays much attention to him, and this little guy in Wylie should also can take the line of the god Lugia. Thinking about it, he doesn't seem to be afraid of that dark Lugia. However, it has never been his style to sit still, not to mention that he himself has no cards to use. Swish. Thinking about it, Baizi flipped his palm, and immediately took out the Destiny Reward, Future Combat Power Time Limit card, activation required, that he swiped from Xiaomao from the system warehouse. Future Combat Power Time Limit card requires stimulation. After activation, it will randomly obtain part of the combat power for a certain period of time in the future, and it can be activated by moving thoughts. Sure enough, the function is similar to what I guessed. After looking at it for a while, looking at the increasingly manic climate outside the window, Baizi did not hesitate, and immediately shouted in his heart, "Activate." The next second, a soft white light suddenly filled the room. The scene in front of Baizi's eyes also spread out like a ripple. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding scenery completely changed. This is a green island. On the grass, he was standing opposite an elf. Long tail, human standing, like a cat. Bai Zitong's eyes suddenly tightened. After a while, he called out the other party's name word by word. Super Dream. Chapter 133. No one will stop me, and no one can stop me. Please order all. Bai Zi, you are here. Furui Wubo's spiritual voice was transmitted through the air, and Chao Meng shifted his gaze and looked in his direction. Huh. Bai Zi was stunned when he heard the words. When did Chao Meng know him? But then, he discovered that Chao Meng's gaze did not seem to be on his body. Ah tilde tilde tilde. Long time no see, Super Dream, it should be today, right? After all, there is no accurate time basis. I can only infer the time limit based on the strength of the big needle bee. Slightly lazy and helpless familiarity. The tone of voice also sounded behind him at this moment. Baizi suddenly turned his head. The visitor is at least 1 head taller than him, and his height is estimated to be over 190 centimeters. The pure black high-necked uniform highlights his slender body. The silver-white hair that was exactly the same as his own was gathered up by a blindfold. Although half of his face is exposed, the facial lines that are enough to make readers feel strongly immersed can still be clearly distinguished. This is a super handsome ratio. Baizi's mouth is straight. He was too familiar with this outfit, and the sound made him feel like he was talking to himself. Head down slightly. Looking at his slightly illusory hands and body, between thoughts, the perspective is constantly changing, passing through clouds and seas, flying into the ground. Combined with the previous title of Cheomeng. He was not a fool at all, and he immediately figured out his own situation. He might, should, probably came to a certain time in the future. And this slender figure in front of him, more than a head taller than himself, but dressed in fancy clothes, is the future self. Snapped. That's right. Blindfolded Baizi suddenly clapped his hands, as if he had remembered something, and said to himself, first of all, you have to understand a little. It's you, what is it when you say I'm bells and whistles? Smoke. Secondly. He stretched out his second finger and continued, I don't cover my eyes to be handsome. This eye patch is made of spiritual cloth. The purpose is to cover up the overflow that I can't control for the time being. Strength. I advise you not to open the blindfold in front of others as well. Hear this, Baizi's eyes flashed. What does this mean? Does it mean that I will also have this strength and outfit in the time period before returning? Well, you can understand that. Blindfolded Baizi said again. The timing was just right, as if he could hear his voice. But to you, this shouldn't be time travel. Probably, it's equivalent to a fantasy. Or taking pictures or something. Well, don't do any extra thinking. The power of the system has not even been understood by me, let alone you. So, let go of pointless thinking. Depend on. Rely on me as also on yourself. Maid. Even myself, are you sure this is my character? Sure, definitely, and definitely. Blindfolded Baizi spread out his hands. Can you blame me for being crooked? What are you doing without AC count? As he spoke, he was stunned for a moment, patted his forehead in annoyance, and said, Hey I've said it smoothly, keep talking. Baizi was suddenly silent. Because he can feel the unrestrained freedom and arbitrariness from his future self, as if nothing in the world can restrain him, he is already the most free person. I can't even talk about the word, most, after all, I haven't really been invincible yet. The originally indifferent tone suddenly became serious, and the corner of the blindfolded mouth raised a smile. However, it's almost the same. Now I can basically do whatever I want, and no one will stop me. And no one can stop me. This, all is because of power. The scorching white thoughts surged like a flame, and spread instantly, turning into a surging white beam of light that pierced the heavens and the earth, tearing apart the stratus clouds above, turning it into a ring-shaped hole. Wonderful Tilda. A soft and cute cry suddenly came from the sky, and a petite pink-white figure surrounded the gradually spreading psychic beam of light, turned round after round, and flew into the arms of the masked Baizi. Arched her coquettishly, looking very intimate. Dream. Baizi narrowed his eyes again, and unconsciously wrote down the way he would fondle his dreams in the future. After seeing the masked Baizi teasing Dream a few times, he allowed the little guy to disappear from his arms in an instant, and then the corner of his mouth was slightly raised, and his eyes refocused on Cheomeng. Hand, in. A pale blue special Pokeball was held in his hand. On the opposite side, Cheomeng, who was in a state of closed eyes for some time, opened his eyes in real time, and while he floated up slowly, he calmly said, It looks like you are ready, then, come on. The voice fell. Whoosh, the portable is wrapped in thought power and goes straight into the sky. Hey, still pretending to be cool. 0. Ask for flowers. Masked by Z's mouth twitched, and the next moment, he caught up with him and threw the pokeball in his hand in midair. With a crisp sound, red and white flashes flew from the pokeball, revealing its figure in mid-air. With a cold appearance like golden iron, the lance stood tall, and the tail of the arm was like a needle, exuding an awe-inspiring chill. Yangzi, keep up. Big stinger. Baizi's eyes flickered slightly, and he went straight up through the clouds in his thoughts, tentatively condensing the power of Baizi in his eyes. As a result, nothing. Don't look, I told you this is just an illusion. The blindfolded Baizi voice came again. I want to know how strong the hornet is now, you can check it out slowly when you go back. Now. Just watch me perform. Big stinger, use double pin attack. Masked Baizi stopped at a place thousands of meters away from Cheomeng, and with a wave of his hand, a large needlebee rushed up. Beer tilde. The giant needlebee almost turned into a blur of light and shadow, and in the blink of an eye, countless figures of the giant needlebee were split, like a clone, rushing towards Cheomeng. Xiaomeng also showed no signs of weakness, and the giant long-handled spoon dance that had been condensed and formed in his hand did not know when he debuted. Call, 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 call. In an instant. Intense crashing sound resounded in the sky. The turbulent ripples stunned the atmosphere, causing countless annular ripples to scatter and impact. In the next second, Mewtwo suddenly changed its form, and disappeared from Baizi's sight together with the giant needlebee. In the air, there was only the sound of delayed gas explosions and the sonic booms that exploded from time to time in mid-air. Cloud, showing that the fierce battle between the two is still going on. Beside him, Baizi was able to see the floating blindfolded Baizi's casual posture with his hands in his pockets, but the corners of his tightly pursed lips could already show his concentration at the moment. At the same time, accompanied by a white light, a huge white giant shadow shining with metallic luster appeared at the feet of the blindfolded Baizi. While lifting, a layer of invisible protective barrier will isolate the sound waves and shocks that spread to you. Giant golden monster. Looking at this familiar yet unfamiliar figure, Baizi murmured again. P.S. The network is disconnected, it's a bit late, sorry a few. Chapter 134. Strong, Invincible. Ready to give a surprise to Diablo Lugia, please order all. Clap la la la. A slight sense of dizziness came, and along with the sound of rain suddenly pouring into his ears, Baizi opened his eyes again, and what he saw was a torrential rain that seemed to be suppressed for a while. Climate. Huh, I'm back. With a light sigh of relief, he turned over and hugged the sleeping little Lugia in his arms, looking at the ceiling and chandeliers on the roof with a slightly confused expression. Be honest. Battle that ended in a draw in illusion, he didn't actually gain much. Because really, too fast. The two sides, who could be called a rapid battle, completely exceeded the limits of his eyesight and consciousness. Apart from the vast and shocking changes and loud noises, he couldn't even see the slightest impression. The gap it's too big. By Zarin, no, live with a sigh. But then, his eyes became deep again. Because, at the last moment of the end of the battle, when his consciousness was gradually being separated from the illusion, the sights he saw one by one has always maintained a high cold character, and rarely speaks of the super dream. At this last moment, he suddenly turned his head and asked the blindfolded Baizi, can you repeat that answer? Of course. Blindfolded Baizi grinned, 323, and said, what is the meaning of existence? This has never been a problem for me. Open black lens bracket, because this is the way of life that you need to walk, measure and find by yourself. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Life, no one can decide his own birth, but the will that runs through life can be determined by oneself. Quote closing square bracket. When you can firmly practice the path determined by this will without any confusion, the meaning of existence, this answer, is already in your heart. Quote closing square bracket. Baizi's voice fell, Cheomung's mouth, corner, forbearance, no, stop raised, come. Super dream. Baiziko, Zhang muttered to himself, looking far away, with a look of inquiry, who is the inquirer of this question? Kanto, unknown waters, a deserted island recognized by the Alliance as an uninhabited island, Yixin Island. It is located under the mountain and in a well-guarded scientific research base. Click, after multiple scans of voice, sound, fingerprint, password, iris, etc., the door of the core laboratory automatically slides open to both sides. As the director of the base, Dr. Fuji quickly got up and greeted the calm man who entered the laboratory. Boss Sakagi, yes. Sakagi simply waved his hand to stop Dr. Fuji's next compliment, with a clear goal, and went straight to the end of the laboratory before placing the culture utensils. In the green nutrient solution, a half-human, half-cat unknown elf curled up inside, and strange energy fluctuated from time to time, causing the nutrient solution to roll back and forth. The frenzy in Sakagi's eyes was fleeting. Because this will be the cornerstone for him to conquer and change the world. How's Mewtwo's progress? The name Cheomung is taken from the meaning of, beyond the dream. It was taken by Sakagi himself when Cheomung was initially formed, and it also showed that his expectations for Cheomung surpassed the dream one by one. Beyond all, everything. Hearing Sakagi's question, Dr. Fuji was clearly confident. He touched his goatee very smoothly, and said, the final debugging stage has come to an end, and although there have been several mental fluctuations in the middle, it seems that it did not have any effect on the debugging stage. On the contrary, it was found that Mewtwo's spirit has become more stable after the subsequent mental test. So, is this a benign change? Yes. Sakagi nodded and said, in the next period of time, I will personally sit in the new island, but I won't ask too much about laboratory matters. It's still up to you, doctor, and you won't let me down. Right, yes. The calm tone and the innocuous gaze still made Dr. Fuji's heart tighten. He straightened his back subconsciously, and answered loudly. Sakagi patted Dr. Fuji on the shoulder, took one last look at Mewtwo in the petri dish, and turned to leave. Tread, huh. As the footsteps gradually receded, Dr. Fuji relaxed and exhaled slowly. Then he turned his head. Look carefully, don't slack off. Got it? Yes. There was a tidy response from the researchers in the laboratory. But the moment they moved away from the monitor, on the screen that is connected to Mewtwo's spiritual consciousness, reacts with wavelengths and monitors in real time, two strange wavelengths that are not easily detectable or fleeting, by Z. Golem, bubbles, tumbling. His eyes turned back to Baizi. At this time, Baizi, who had gathered his divergent thoughts, raised his palm and looked at the future combat power time limit card that had changed greatly in his hand. One by one future time limit combat power card. You will get the period of illusion. All the combat power displayed will have a random time limit after use, and at the same time, some insights will be withheld. Will there be feedback after use? Bai Zeshan turned his hand over the future combat power time limit card. In his hand, without hesitation, he directly ordered, System, give me the future combat power time limit card. The next second, the card in the hand disappeared instantly, and the system prompt sound also sounded one by one. Ding, loading the future combat power time limit card, for you. Open black lens bracket in a random time limit. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket confirmation time limit, 1 hour. Close black lens bracket. Combat loading completed. Part of the combat power you have unlocked is Super Power Master Level. Main body Elves, Big Needle Bee, Giant Golden Monster. The next moment, Baizi felt that there was an invisible warm force emerging from his body and mind, like the rising sun of a newborn, starting from his mind and gradually spreading to his whole body. Different from what he imagined, in this process, Baizi didn't feel the pain of I Ching cutting the marrow, on the contrary, everything seemed to happen naturally. I do not know how long it has been. It was only then that he gradually came to his senses. Activity 1, 2, body muscles and bones. Baizi clenched his fists, and a layer of burning white liquid energy instantly covered his clenched fists. The brain is clear. Soon. Noisy and incomparably numerous voices poured into Baizi's ears. Dense conversations, incomparably clear, the sound of raindrops outside the window, like heavy hammers, and even gradually spreading and emerging inner voices. The whole city, everything, is under his control. Even, this range is still constantly expanding. Baizi frowned slightly in discomfort. In the next second, these perceptions were restrained by his compartment, and there was no time-space zero. This power is completely like an arm command. This power. A flash of shock flashed in Baizi's eyes. Is this the power of master-level superpowers? Afterwards, he raised his palm slightly, one green and one silver, and two Pokeballs he had never seen before appeared in his hands. Large Needle Bee, Giant Golden Monster. Baizi's eyes are full of anticipation, which is comparable to the Giant Needle Bee of Cheomung, and the Giant Golden Monster of unknown depth. How far has he grown to the point where the two holding the main force for him have grown? In the eyes behind the blindfold, no one can see the brilliance, which flashes instantly one by one. Race. Large Needle Bee Metal Flash Original Form. Permanent Mega Transformation. Attribute. Insect Poison. Characteristics. Adaptability. Mind-Eye Exclusive Characteristics. Predicting the actions of the other party, the ability to avoid danger to break the situation. Level. Level 1 God Peak. Peak Level 119, 70/100. Potential. Level 1 God Extreme. HP. 165 Attack. Attack. 200 150 Defense. 140 Special Attack. 15 Special Defense. 180 Speed. Speed. 200 145. Exclusive Skills. Gauntlets can greatly enhance the defense and attack. Attack of Double Needles Extinction Needle. Stabs dedicated all-out killing blow. Can cause 2/3 5 times the damage, and has a certain probability causes a one-hit kill effect. Skills. Double Needle, slightly. Genetic Skill. Rapid Return. Prop. Focus Mirror. Open black lens bracket status. Perfect close black lens bracket. Law Comprehension. Insect 99%. Introduction. From ancient times to the present, the first one broke through to the first level God. Peak, which is comparable to the top legend of the Giant Needle Bee. Elf. Giant Gold Monster, Silver White Flash. Attribute. Steel, Super Energy. Characteristics. Body of Eternal Purity, Heart of Steel. Exclusive Characteristics. Immune to steel attribute moves, and increase the resistance of his own moves of various attributes. Prism Armor. Mutation Characteristics. The damage caused by highly effective moves will be reduced by 1/4. Level. A 1.7 Level God Advanced, Level 117, 50/100. Potential. Level 1 God. HP. 80, Attack, 150 135 Defense. 185 130 Special Attack. 95, Special Defense. 150 90 Speed. 70. Common Skills. Comet Fist, slightly. Genetic Skills. Iron Hoof Ray, Metal Claw, Photon Surge, Prism Laser. Open black lens bracket status. Perfect close black lens bracket. Introduction. The Born King has defense and resistance beyond the racial value. There is no absolute overwhelming power that cannot hurt him in the slightest. The divine power he possesses is enough to shake the mountains and mountains. Strong and invincible. After a while, Baizi, who had regained his senses, immediately had this thought, and there was only one word left in his heart: steady. Dark Lugia, right. Hey tilde at this moment, Baizi can't wait to go to find that, and say hello to the Dark Lugia who just stared at him. Presumably when he sees him, he will be very surprised, right? Chapter 135. Big Stinger Bee, Deadly Needle Sting. For full order. Speaking of, my vision doesn't seem to have the impression of a blindfold at all. Baizi pulled the eye mask on his face behind him, and it felt cold to the touch, with a satin but jelly-like texture. No. There's still a little difference. The eyes under the blindfold flickered slightly. Baizi looked around, and countless life forms emitting different lights came into view. As this perspective, or is it a spiritual perspective? Without going too deep into it, he turned his gaze back to the silver pokeball with a giant gold monster on it, with a strange expression. Photon surge, and prism laser. If I remember correctly, these two should be Necrozma's exclusive tricks, right? How did the giant gold monster get these two tricks? After thinking for a while, Baizi, who was also clueless, shook his head. Now is not the time to think about these things. The time for the card to take effect is only 1 to 1 hour, he better not to waste too much. Open black lens bracket 58, 55 close black lens bracket __. Glancing at the remaining time on the system panel, Baizi moved his joints, did a few chest expanding movements, and got used to his taller body. With a hook of his finger, a wisp of black chi distorted like a snake was shot from his body. A little feeling, I found it. Then, one by one, he jumped up and jumped straight down toward the balcony. Ho-a-ho tilde. Let's go find that big black bird and play with it. As if liberating his nature, the rapid falling sensation stimulated his heart, and in the roar of excitement, a strange light suddenly flashed across the palm of his hand. Terry tilde. Accompanied by a steady mechanical sound, a silver-white giant gold monster appeared in the air, quickly catching up with Baizi, who was still in a standing position in the fall, and lifted him firmly, his body folded. Turn and rush straight to the rain screen. Standing on the giant golden monster without the slightest sense of turbulence, Baizi seemed to sense something. Turn back suddenly. Sight was on the previous one, a purple-haired little loli lying in front of the window. The corners of Baizi's mouth curled into an obvious arc, and he put his slender index finger and middle finger on the side of his forehead, waved forward, and soon disappeared into the rain curtain. Oh tilde. Little loli, a stunned expression on her face. Immediately afterward, he stepped on his short legs and threw himself onto the legs of a young woman with short purple hair. With a cute face, he pointed out the window and said, Mom, I just saw a good-looking big brother, riding a flying saucer, and he flew away with a swish. Fly away to the sea. Now, oh, is it? The purple-haired young woman glanced out of the unoccupied window and gently touched the soft hair of the little loli without expressing any opinion. Seemingly aware of her mother's unbelief, the little loli puffed out her cheeks and defended in a hurry. Well, look at the big brother's face, he still has a blindfold on his face, and his hair is as white as the old grandpa. By the way, he also left a secret sign with me. Saying that, little loli stood up to the very wealthy airport, imitating Baizi's appearance, reluctantly compared Bai Nen's little hand to a chicken, claw-like gesture, put it on the forehead and stroke forward. That's it. He tilde, is that so? The purple short-haired young woman made a surprised expression, and then she put a cautious expression close to little Loli's ear and said, Then Lily, in order to keep this secret, it is very necessary to get enough sleep. I know. Lily nodded seriously, raised her hands, was picked up by her mother, and walked towards the bedroom. In my heart, I deeply remembered Baizi's appearance and that password, in my heart. Ellipsis. Deep sea. Lugia, are you really ready to give up your child? I thought you wouldn't be so decisive. It's cold-blooded. Looking at the ley lines and ocean currents that gradually condensed into one stream, dark Lugia's surging mental power kept stirring and mocking. As a god with the power of authority, Lugia is almost difficult to be disturbed when regulating the earth currents, because its shape is almost integrated into this invisible force of nature. If it is rashly affected, then it will not only affect the climate under the jurisdiction of the ley lines and ocean currents, it can even cause a chain reaction, causing the ocean itself, airlines, and even ozone. Once such an impact is really caused, then I am afraid that more than one official beast will end. At that time, I am afraid that it will really be hammered. Therefore, in terms of proportions, Diablo Lugia is very good at it. Moreover, right now, he is just talking a few words, trying to see if he can stimulate this guy to come out. What's more, he felt like he was staying on that little guy, as if someone had wiped out the evil spirits on him. However, the other party did not remove the breath imprint. Did they not find it, or was there some other reason? It's kind of interesting. Let me meet you. Dark Lugia glanced at the ley lines and ocean currents that were gradually converging and formed, and with a wave of her wings, it rose into the sky toward the sea, and soon disappeared into the deep sea. Gululu, a burst of bubbles rose, and within the ley lines and ocean currents, a brilliant white figure disappeared in a flash. Then, visible to the naked eye, the convergence speed of the ley lines and ocean currents, at least, is 3 or 4 times faster. On the sea area far away from the inland, a gray, purple bird figure broke out of the water, spread its wings, and floated on the sea surface. It's not another bird, it's Diablo Lugia. Breathe tilde 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 breathe tilde 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 breath of freedom. Dark Lugia took a deep breath, and then slowly spit out, while bringing the distance of the waves to surging. An intoxicated look appeared on her face. But then, it suddenly felt that something was wrong. Huh? How come my breath mark is so close to me? It's like, behind me. Whoosh! Dark Lugia suddenly turned around with her wings. Only see. A slender young man in a pitch black uniform and blindfolded with silver hair pinched a twist of black air in his forehand, and waved at him happily. Under his feet, a giant golden monster with a calm aura, even it had an inexplicable sense of oppression, quietly suspended at the feet of the young man, holding it up in the air. Human, who are you? Diablo Lugia was tense, whether it was the giant gold monster that could only give it a strong sense of oppression, or this unemotional face, but silently lurking behind it, making it almost useless. Young people feel that it is not easy. My name is Baizi. Baizi stroked his chest slightly and bowed, with a calm tone that seemed to have no hostility. First time meeting, Diablo Lugia, thank you very much for the gift you gave me. There is a saying in my hometown that we should pay tribute to each other, so please accept my return gift. The words fell, and he held a wisp in his hand. The scorching white flames rose up, evaporating the twisted black air in an instant. Large stinger, extinct needle, sting. The next second, Baizi shouted with a cold face. Diablo Lugia was stunned for a moment. Big needle bee. Shouldn't it be the giant gold monster? But then, the deadly sense of crisis emanating from the back of his head made his face change. P.S. Lily is a character in the theatrical version of our story. It is not a hydrology, but a buried thread. It will be used in 2 or 3 stories, and a very handsome phantom beast will be involved in the later stage. This chapter the content contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. Chapter 136. Comprehensive Suppression, the Ferocious Giant Stinger. For full order. Whoa! The screeching screams that startled the sky and stopped the clouds rang out, just when the heart-pounding Dark Lugia was covered in a blue energy coat, and wanted to rush up to avoid the fatal blow in the back of her head. The surging sound of breaking the air came from the ear. The big needle bee, whose scarlet eyes glowed with cold light, caught up with the speed of light, and the needle arm glowing with blue light turned into a swipe, hitting the Dark Lugia's defenseless neck. Boom, hum, 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 4x damage. Dark Lugia's entire body was hit by a strong force, and from the sea, it traversed as if being hit by water, and the fierce shock wave even made it dizzy for a moment. Although it was only for a moment, Baizi would not miss such a good opportunity. Follow the victory, move at high speed. Stalker. Observing both sides with a keen energy perspective, I was even able to see the Dark Lugia face that was shot tens of thousands of meters away, by Z with a painful expression on it, and quickly ordered again. Beer tilde. I saw the large needle bee fluttering its wings in a fierce insect chirping, the whole body up and down, a thin layer of streamer covering it, the whole body turned into a sharp arrow, with bursts of light. The sound of the air screeching, in an instant, caught up with dark Lugia's body that was still rolling. Then its huge lance turned into a gust of wind and rain. With a burst of sonic boom, like air ring, it stabbed fiercely on dark Lugia's body. In an instant, the air was smashed into a white piece. Boom tilde. Accompanied by a violent explosion and the strong air pressure spreading outwards, it exploded from Diablo Lugia's body. The roaring sound was accompanied by the uncontrollable whine of dark Lugia, and it was knocked out again at once, and the remaining power carried by the body, even the sea water in the path below it was expelled. From a long ditch, gully. Buzzing one by one, but the next second, accompanied by the buzzing in the air, the large needle bee has already arrived first, appeared, and intercepted the body in front of the body that flew out of dark Lugia. Golden monster, follow, go. Looking from a distance at dark Lugia, who was swept away by the giant needle bees with double needles, like kicking a ball, and was beaten without the ability to fight back for a while, Z put his arms around him and tapped the huge back of the giant gold monster under his feet and said. Then, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the splendid brilliance in his eyes suddenly skyrocketed. Open black lens bracket elf, Lugia close black lens bracket. Attribute, evil, flying. Characteristics. Multiple scales, Monty, evil devouring, exclusive characteristics. Can be replenished by devouring life and increase physical strength and energy level. Level 1 God peak level 119, 99 100ths. Potential, level 1 God. HP, 106, attack, 90, defense, 130, special attack, 90, special defense, 154, speed, 110. Exclusive skill, air blast, cyclone attack, strike. Skills, divine bird slam, slightly. Status, normal, lack of energy. Law comprehension, evil 90%. Introduction. The aliens of the Lugia family are born with special talents. They are promoted by devouring a large number of Lugias, and in 2000 years, they have used the evil energy and talent used as punishment to complete the transformation of attributes. Reach the apex of a first-level god, but the understanding of the law limits the growth of its strength. Evil bite, devour Lugia in large quantities. Tisk. A trace of disgust flashed in Zian's eyes. It's not uncommon for the weak to eat the strongest in the elves, but it is still cold to eat the same kind of thing. And can it be replenished by devouring life and increase physical strength and energy level? It looks like you have to pay attention to this. And 52:36 we must fight quickly. Glancing at the remaining time limit of the battle card, Z thought about it in his heart, and then his eyes narrowed, and he blessed his superpower on Zi's power as if he was self-taught. In an instant, the white mist and blue light of the stars faintly passed through the blindfold made of the cloth of the spiritual world. And in Zi's perspective, a white spot of light appeared on dark Lugia's body. The new power of Zi's power, weakness perception. Found it. Zi's lips twitched, he squatted slightly, pressed his palm on the back of the giant golden monster under his feet, connected his mind, and shared his perspective with the giant golden monster. Meteor beam preparation. Terry tilde, quote. The giant golden monster gave a dull roar, and the radiant power of the universe converged. While rapidly increasing the special attack, it gradually turned the rock-based energy factor into a golden-orange irregular energy sphere. The eyebrows condensed out before. Meteor power, this is a trick that needs to be charged, for 120, after completing the increase of the power of the universe, in order to increase by one level, which is 1.5 times, plus the rock system against the evil, flying dark Lugia great effect. If it hits, the damage will reach an astonishing 360. What's more, with the help of Z, the giant gold monster is aiming at the opponent's weak spot. In fact, according to the current strength of the giant gold monster, the charging of the meteor beam can be reduced and completed in a relatively short period of time, and it will not weaken the original damage of the skill at all. However, Baizi still let the giant gold monster charge up. Because, with this blow, he wanted to directly inflict enough damage on Diablo Lugia. After all, time is not on his side. Open black lens bracket 49, 15 close black lens bracket __. At this moment, the meteor beam that the giant gold monster has charged has finally taken shape. Damn it. Yeah tilde. Dark Lugia endured the stinging pain from all over her body, and tried her best to slam into the interval between the alternate attacks of the giant stingers. After getting rid of the impact, the dark mist ignited like a flame, and the wide wings seemed to be turned into long knives, slashing towards the galloping giant needlebee. Shadows are coming. Seeing Diablo Lugia break free from the combo, Baizi frowned, and the surging mental power immediately connected to the consciousness of the big needlebee. The big needlebee, stop the gauntlet, use a secret language. Then take the extinction needle, stab and put it on it. Call. Beer tilde. The arms were folded and raised high, and a layer of lavender translucent energy armor emerged above the double needles in the cold neighing sound of the big needlebees. Call. The jet black blade wings that came rushing in suddenly collided with the energy gauntlet above the twin needles of the big needlebee. Immediately, a ring-shaped white shock spreads. The giant stinger seemed to be a little weaker, and at the moment of contact, it followed the impact and retreated, and turned around in midair, adjusting its position. With one move, Dark Lugia hurried to catch up. Call. Phew, the jet black sword light swaying like a curtain shot down one after another, and the large needlebees slammed back one after another. Dark Lugia took advantage of the situation, and gradually put her back towards Baizi and the giant gold monster. And just when the directions of the giant needlebee, the Dark Lugia, and the giant golden monster were in a straight line, the giant needlebee lost its slump, and faced the jet black light wing that was slashed again, flapping its wings to meet it. The dark wings of light and the lavender needle arms staggered, and collided again, but this time, a turbulent force passed along the wings of the Dark Lugia, and the difference was very different. At one point, it flew straight out. What? Dark Lugia's expression changed. But oncoming, is the secret language skills released by the big needlebee. Goodly how, hey tilde beer tilde in an instant, sound waves rose from the mouthparts like a substance, causing a wave-like pattern to appear in the air. Accompanied by this whisper-like insect chirping sound. Dark Lugia, who was originally able to compete evenly with the big needlebees, was shrouded in the sound wave for the first time. Laxative. And in this moment, snapped. The strong force came from the pair of needles covered with lavender energy gauntlets again. He slapped away the wings that Diablo Lugia blocked in front of him neatly. Dive into the heart. On the right arm, the long needle swayed, wrapped in a blue-green energy factor, and condensed a huge phantom lance in the void, stabbed heavily on the soft abdominal cavity of Dark Lugia. Chapter 137, The Jedi Strikes Back. A moment of crisis. The terror of the pinnacle of God. For full order. Boom. The roaring sound was mixed with the abnormal sound of the sharp weapon piercing the flesh. Although it only penetrated a little, but immediately after that, the surging impact that spread out in an instant, suddenly pierced from the Dark Lugia's body. A blood hole the size of the mouth of a bull burst open in the abdomen. The roaring sound was accompanied by the uncontrollable whine of Diablo Lugia, and the Diablo Lugia was blown up and flew straight out. The goal is to point directly in the direction of Baizi and the giant gold monster. Well done, giant gold monster, meteor beam. Seeing Dark Lugia flying upside down, Baizi's mouth twitched, and he ordered in a deep voice. Terry tilde. A steady mechanical voice came from the mouth of the giant golden monster, and the next moment, a golden-orange irregular energy light sphere turned into a beam of light and spewed out. The long charged power made this strike extraordinarily vast and majestic. Like an arrow of dawn that pierced through the darkness, it broke through all obstacles in front of it, and stirred up two towering waves like a city wall. With the destructive power of Eliku, he cut through the black mist and slammed into the spine in the middle of Dark Lugia's back. Boom, 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 boom. Dark Lugia only felt an unstoppable force acting on her body, and the familiar dizziness came again, accompanied by a tyrannical rock factor infiltrating it. Body, inside. Immediately after that, a series of huge explosions and a huge atmospheric pressure that spread out suddenly appeared again from the body of Diablo Lugia. Whoa tilde. Diablo Lugia let out a shrill whine, accompanied by the blood of the big canopy splattering straight down the 353 line. Its back was directly penetrated, connected to the blood port stabbed by the big needle bee before, forming blood holes running through. Visible to the naked eye, the breath of Dark Lugia was sluggish, descending several layers. And, rolling, falling toward the sea. However. Status. Poor, serious injury. Is it, heavier? Looking at the results of Baizeji's investigation, Baizi's eyes narrowed, and he laughed lightly. You are really cunning. Do you want to escape like a sea? Or, do you want to use the evil bite characteristic supplement yourself? All I can say is, you think too much. Baizi sneered, but in his heart he could not help but sigh. The life force of this top legend is actually quite perverted. The abdomen and back are directly penetrated, and even the spine leaks out come in half, and that's all. It's just a heavier injury. Golden Monster. While his heart was spinning, Baizi's movements were not slow at all. He snorted lightly, and even opened his fingers and pressed it on the back of the giant golden monster. Comet Punch. The next second, along with Baizi's cold drink, the giant golden monster's body appeared in the side and rear of Dark Lugia in an instant like a flash. Afterwards, the giant golden monster turned its flying saucer-like body, and the steel officer like a special dumbbell spun with the movement of the body. On the ends of the limbs with iron claws, a splendid metallic radiance was wrapped around them. With the majestic magnetic explosion, the body of the giant golden monster spun rapidly, and was plated with a silver glow that shone with a little star. Immediately, a layer of energy suddenly rose. Driven by the drill-like body of the giant gold monster, carrying an extremely terrifying impact force, it smashed towards the seemingly defenseless Dark Lugia. But at this juncture, Dark Lugia, who was unable to roll and fell to the sea, suddenly stagnated in mid-air, and in the next second, a dark blue ice-based energy group that was compressed to the extreme exploded in Dark Lugia's mouth. At the same time, with the rapid fanning of Dark Lugia's wings, the cold air in the deepest part of the glacier mixed with the gust of wind rose, and it headed towards the giant golden monster. Freezing wind plus freezing beam. Click, 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 click. The extremely cold air quickly invaded the joints of the giant golden monster, slowing down its speed. Immediately afterwards, countless thick or clean ice rays exploded all over the giant gold monster. These ice blue energy rays released an absolute low temperature, and quickly wrapped around this dish-shaped silver-white iron claw elf. The freezing light is fast freezing, and the silver-white metal body of the giant gold monster that shines in the dazzling square is coated with a thick layer of blue ice. In the blink of an eye, the original position of the giant gold monster has already turned into a giant, big ice. Moreover, the tail of this huge piece of ice also spread to the surface of the sea, turning into a long bar in the shape of a hammer handle. On the whole, it was like an ice-blue hammer, standing on the sea surface. Above the ice. Seeing that it was seen through, the Dark Lugia simply stopped pretending, and as the chill spread, the wound on the back of the abdomen was frozen, and the bird-like body side was about to pass by the frozen giant golden monster, straight into the sea. However, the next moment. Acbh, the sound of ice breaking, then, in a violent roar, the ice under the giant golden monster was suddenly crushed along with the sea surface, turned into a gigantic sea bowl. A terrifying repulsive force was aroused from under it, and the giant golden monster comet fist was castrated, turning and charging straight, in the middle of the body of Dark Lugia, who had passed by. Boom! The energy of 500 violent kachas exploded in an instant, followed by a crisp bone-cracking sound. Woe tilde! Diablo Lugia let out a tragic whine that had never been heard before in a battle, because what it broke was the spine that was pierced again in the abdominal cavity and exposed. Good. The giant gold monster's blow hit the bull's eye. This time, Diablo Lugia was seriously injured. Status: severely injured, fractured spine. However, a third of the time has also passed. Open black lens bracket 39, 55 close black lens bracket __. Quick fight, Big Needle B, move at high speed. Grid, giant golden monster, thunder and lightning fist. Baizi didn't even have the slightest idea to let Diablo Lugia take a breath. After confirming the other party's injury, he immediately gave the order to pursue through telepathy. But just as the Big Needle Bee rushed to the side of Dark Lugia again at an extremely fast speed, the needle arm was involved, pulling open a lightning-flashing grid. And when the giant golden monster clenched his fists that also shone with lightning. Give it all to me. Dark Lugia's palm-like wings slammed open, and layers of twisted jet-black flames emerged from its body, turning into a substantial wave that spread out in all directions. The huge mass and density crushed the air and even the space into pieces. The seawater below it is directly destroyed as if it has been eroded. In the sky, it was like a round of black stars rising. Before it was released, the space in a radius of dozens of miles had been rendered as drowsy and terrifying like a ghost. This is Dark Lugia's life-threatening blow, mixed with the power of evil-type origin chi fluctuations. Air blast. Not good. Baizi's face changed suddenly, and he finally deeply understood the horror of the peak first-level gods going all out. In comparison, the battle between the giant Stinger and Cheomung that he saw in the fantasy world before, it's like playing at home. Do not. It might not even be a joke. Big Needle Bee, giant golden monster. Baizi only had time to shout out the names of the two, while he himself was urging his superpowers with all his strength to shoot himself back like a cannonball. As far as possible away from the center point of Dark Lugia's skill burst. It's not that he doesn't want to use teleportation. In fact, it was the space distortion caused by the bubbling and active evil elements in a radius of dozens of miles, which made him not dare to rashly break into the space. Otherwise, I'm afraid that his front feet will just go in and go, and the back feet will be stirred into powder by the power of the distorted space. Chapter 138, Why Not Be Afraid of Death? Big Stinger Bee, God-killing moment, for full order. Almost at the same time. In other words, in the first few moments when Baizi reminded him aloud. In the face of Dark Lugia's fatal blow in the air, the giant needle bee did not retreat but advanced, turning into a splendid streamer to break through the dark curtain, and in an instant from Dark Lugia's side crossed, came to the tilde side of the giant gold monster. Afterwards, the long needle swung and swiftly swept across the already convoluted giant gold monster. Bang one by one, with the sound of a twilight drum and a morning bell, the giant golden monster cut open the drowsy dark curtain of evil like a spiral, and quickly moved in the direction of Baizi, rushing to. In the next second, black gas burst out like a cloud burst. In the face of this, the giant needle bee had no intention of avoiding it at all. The scarlet insect head glowed with a cold light, and on the right side, the lance-like needle arm pulled back slowly. At the moment when the violent black shock wave fell on it, the big needle bee stabbed the needle arm forward. Immediately, along with the sharp sound of tearing the air, a bright blue light exploded in the void. And the other side. With the help of the traversing force of the giant needle bee, the giant golden monster exploded with magnetic force, and the disc-shaped body turned into a spinning top, rushing fast on the sea surface, and finally caught up with Baizi at the critical moment. Terry tilde. Standing up like a disc in front of Baizi, a honeycomb-shaped energy barrier composed of vast super-energy factors completely enveloped Baizi. Next, an instant, boom, a tumbling and eroding wave-like impact, It hit the top of the giant gold monster's head. After a short stalemate, a torrent that divided into a hollow rushed toward the rear. The little aftermath hit the energy barrier. For a moment, wait for the tide to dissipate. In the sky, the clouds and mists dissipated, the wind and rain dissipated, and the whole sky seemed to have been carefully smeared by someone with an eraser, and it became a piece of clear. And at the foot, in the sea area where one can't see the end, there is a deep, deep hole in the huge, boundless sea area. Thousands of hectares of seawater disappeared in an instant. Rumbling, immediately afterwards, the roar of the tidal wave returning like a rush of horses came from afar. Kaka. With a burst of bones and muscles, the giant golden monster broke free of the evil-type erosion factor covering the first half of his life, and his discus-like body flew like a roulette again, came to Baizi's feet, and lifted it to fly upwards. Go, are you all right, golden monster? All this happened so fast, between the lightning and flint, Baizi came back to his senses, and he stopped the giant golden monster and flew into the air, avoiding the violent backflow of the sea below. Terry Tilda. The giant golden monster responded, yes, indicating that it was okay. And Baizi was relieved after using the power of Baizi to investigate the state of the giant golden monster. Status: slightly injured, slightly injured. Apparently it's fine. But then, Baizi was enduring, no, staying a little amazed. The giant golden monster, just, a high-level first-level god, all relying on his body and body to take the full blow of the peak first-level god, there was only one minor injury. Tisk tisk, terrifying. Sighing in his heart, Baizi also quickly looked at the center of the battlefield. Before, in order to save him, Big Stinger chose to fight against Dark Lugia. Although Baizi doesn't think that the Hornet can't resist the Dark Lugia. But, after all, the Big Needlebee is not a thick-skinned guy like the giant golden monster. Even though it has strengthened its dual defense and physical strength, it can be so close and hastily face the Dark Lugia's life-threatening one hit. To be honest, Baizi was inevitably a little worried. However, when Baizi turned his gaze in the direction of the Big Needlebee and the Dark Lugia, his eyes shrank abruptly. Drip, drip, drip. It was not clear whose bright red blood was running down the needle arm of the Big Needlebee, spreading to the body, and the sting at the tail needle slowly dripping into the waves swept by the tide. The half of the body facing the sky is full of erosion and bloody wounds. But even so, the Big Needlebee's expression was still extremely cold. The needle arm on the right held up to the sky is like being scraped off, revealing the slender supporting horny skeleton inside. However, due to the tragic situation of the giant Needlebee at this time, it is now pierced through the abdomen and picked in the midair in the huge energy gauntlet that spreads over 1,000 meters on the needle arm that it is holding up to the sky. The Diablo Lugia is even more shocking. You bastard. It seems like the light is returning. The Dark Lugia's palm-like wings are firmly buckled on the energy gauntlet that runs through the abdomen, and the lavender energy gauntlet is pierced by the sound of creaking. Diablo Lugia kept spitting up bloody bubbles, with an unbelievable look on her face, and said hatefully, "You bastard. Are you really not afraid of death? That blow just now." Diablo Lugia seems to be fighting for her life, but in fact, she doesn't expect much merit from this blow. After all, the gap between the two sides is only a millimeter. This strong and excessively large stinger is so fast that it makes it face the original return to the rift seat. It feels like it hits. If it is lucky, it will not hit, and it is also expected. Medium. Its fundamental purpose is just to use this blow to get rid of the predicament of being unable to fight back, to escape, and to find a place to lick the wound. After all, it has finally regained its freedom, but it does not want to really fight with people at all. 0. Ask for flowers. But what I didn't expect was, the big stinger in front of me is simply crazy. You must know that in order to be able to find an escape, that air blast that contained evil-type Genesis Chi was deadly. Not to mention the crispy skin among ordinary elves like the giant Needlebee. Even if in their top legends, the most needy King Ho and the old immortal who hid in the depths of the earth were hit head-on, they would not die, and they would be severely injured. But this lunatic in front of him doesn't need to dodge or avoid it, and he doesn't even take the slightest defensive measure. Completely hard against the horror and evil department. Shock. Go upstream. Aiming at the wound on its abdomen, it is an energy lance that runs through a kilometer. This is so special, it is simply fighting for his life. Madman. More importantly, it can feel that although this shot of the lance almost kills its life, the root cause that really makes it shocking, almost crazy, is because of the body, inner that destructive power accompanied by a lance like a body. Diablo Lugia can clearly feel that the only remaining vitality in the body is being constantly destroyed. In a short while, it will traverse the Middle Ages, and use its own power to knock down the entire peak state of the Lugia ethnic group, use it as a resource, and use it to board the alien legend of the peak first level god. He's about to die in the hands of a big stinger bee. Why? Lugia too. So is your bloke. Why? What? Open black lens bracket. Why can you not be afraid of death? Close black lens bracket. This sentence, Diablo Lugia finally did not fully ask. Gotcha. One by one, the fear of death gradually coming to let it shred the energy spear that pierced its abdomen, but it also took away the last trace of its vitality. Ka. Bang. As the big needlebee withdrew the gauntlet skill, he turned around indifferently. The kilometer-long energy lance suddenly shattered and turned into little stars, and Dark Lugia's lifeless body also disappeared with the wind as if returning to heaven and earth. Duliu, a purple-black diamond-shaped crystal, floating in midair, ups and downs. Several. Chapter 139. Dr. Damu. Little girl, take a good look at it. What is a trainer? For full order. City of Lamperch. At this moment, the city of Lamperkey was almost submerged by the sea water, and the streets and alleys of the whole city were filled with rolling floods. Although the torrential rain in the sky gradually stopped, the sea water continued to pour into the city. It seemed that the small turbulent flow at the beginning gradually evolved into an intensifying trend. However, all this suddenly changed a few minutes ago. The flood tide, which had intensified originally, suddenly receded from the city like a tide for some unknown reason. In no time, even the golden sandy beach, which was completely submerged, has been revealed again. Many citizens who were awakened by this sudden flood couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But Dr. Damu, who was also paying attention to this point, caught a glimpse of the impending crisis from this sudden change. The rainstorm didn't stop at all, but the tide, 353, tide retreated so fast. Not good. Dr. Damu's expression changed. He didn't have time to change his clothes. He casually put on a coat, pants and vest, and a pair of disposable slippers from the hotel, and quickly rushed out of the Ramparch City Hotel. Came to the Golden Beach where the tides receded. After a little observation, Dr. Damu's face was solemn, and he looked at the already naked, outside the shallow seabed, the sea that seemed to be too calm. There can be no mistake. Next, the city of Rampolchi is likely to be hit by huge waves. Like it is to verify the judgment of Dr. Ogi. Clap la la, a rolling stream of water rushed back quickly, rushing backwards along the back of Dr. Ogi's instep. Soon, it spread to the instep of Dr. Ogi. Snapped. Dr. Damu fumbled and took out a pack of cigarettes from the pocket of his coat, flicked his wrist, lowered his head and picked up one, and then he covered it and lit the fire. With a puff of white smoke, Dr. Damu scratched his head, looked at the surging waves in the distance, and recalled, speaking of which, how many years have I not given all my strength? 5 years, 10 years. Almost, 20 years or so. White smoke spit out again from Dr. Damu's mouth, but this time, the smoke flew straight out and was nearly a meter long. And Dr. Ogi, who showed a lung capacity that was different from ordinary people, had a slightly hunched body. The body gradually became taller and straighter. A gigantic force rises in the night sky. Buzz along with the humming sound. Dr. Damu took out a special red and white ball that was shiny with a rare rebellious look on his face. Slightly sighed, he whispered in a low voice, "Old man, we are going to fight side by side again." After he said a word, Dr. Ogi tapped lightly on the button of the Pokeball. The Pokeball swelled instantly. In the sound of bang, white light flickered, and a huge beast with a body height of about 3 meters and a body length of nearly 3 meters appeared beside Dr. Damu. The horns are curved like 2 pairs of angry blades facing the sky, and the 3 points of the forehead have the appearance of a bodhisattva, but with the sharp eyes, it is like a wrathful king. This is also only in the Kanto, or can be said that the entire wizard world is quite the scene of the road spirit, Kintaro. Energetic and fiery personality, even if he doesn't make a lot of noise often, he will feel unhappy in his heart, and he is used to fighting with horns. Also, the mighty Kintaro who protects the clan is proud of his scarred horn. In the group, whoever has the thickest and longest horns and scars is the boss. And this Kintaro of Dr. Ogi. Not only are they different from the same race. The pair of horns like a crescent moon are covered with cracks that can be seen faintly, even though they have healed. This is Kintaro's powerful medal and proof. Few people would know that, as the champion of the first World Elf League competition, Dr. Damu's strongest trump card is this Kintaro. Tilde. And at this moment, Kintaro, who fully demonstrated what it means to be moving like a mountain, after chanting softly, he turned his attention to the monstrous waves that swept in, at least nearly 100 meters high. Kintaro. However, just as Dr. Ogi was about to issue an order, a squeak suddenly came from the back of the quilt. "A shui, come on. Use brute force." Bang, the voice fell. A blue figure shot out like a cannonball, rushing towards the giant wave, punching like a hammer, with a roar like a drum, hammering in the water curtain. "Go up 0. Immediately, Pang Ran's fist force blasted a huge hole with a diameter of nearly 30 meters on the water curtain. Afterwards, the remaining strength was unabated, with the blue figure with that muscular chew, instantly submerged in the turbulent tide. And the giant wave, after a brief collapse, the momentum is still unabated. For a moment, the blue figure emerged from the water like a cannonball again, and with a little pink-haired girl who was drenched like a chicken in soup, it fell to Dr. Damu's side. How come? At this moment, the pink-haired little girl was nestled in the arms of the muscular blue beast that was nearly 3 meters high, with a face of disbelief. "Asui is so strong, even a hill of the same size can hit it. Bro, why can't you break this giant wave? This level of power of nature cannot be resisted with brute force." Dr. Damu shook his head and said, and at the same time, looked at the behemoth holding the little girl with a slightly dumbfounded look. "With just brute force, the monstrous waves carrying 10,000 tons of power can be broken open, pierced, and caused a brief collapse. The punch is so strong that even Dr. Damu is inevitably a little scared. But, judging from the performance just now, this blue behemoth, whose appearance is far different from its peers, is inferior to even an elite-level elf in the use of skills. It is like a reckless man with unparalleled divine power." 1.7 Rumbling. At this moment, because of the delay of this person and beast, the giant waves are getting closer and closer. Dr. Damu hurriedly restrained his thoughts. He wanted to raise some points. He spit out the only remaining cigarette butt, and said in a deep voice, "Little girl, take a good look at it. What is a trainer?" In an instant, the gigantic force that rose again was vaguely linked to Kintaro by his side. Tilde. In a melodious whine. The hearts of the two immediately merged with each other. "Come on, Kintaro, use the ultimate shock, blast." Chapter 140. Sitting on Wax, Killing the Gods. With the words of Dr. Ogi fell. "Huh." 2 lines of white air spurted out of Kintaro's nostrils, and while the ox tail swung, the strong left front hoof was slightly raised. Next second, stepping, the heavy hoof made the ground feel a little, slightly shocking. Then, accompanied by the sound of the ground, Kintaro seemed to be moving slowly and quickly towards the wave with heavy steps. And accompanied by the run of Kintaro. Front. There was a sound as if the cloth was being torn. The air twists. Bursts of suffocation also followed. The entire atmosphere, as if being pushed by an invisible wall, converged before the horns of Kintaro, and turned into a huge wall of impact, on which there was a faint mark of the head of the bull. Towards the rushing gigantic wave, push forward. Bang! In a burst of loud humming sound, the tide collided with the air wall head-on. It was as if two trains of express rails collided head-on. The terrifying collision seemed to make the entire city of Lamperkey tremble at this moment, and the ripples in the air appeared in the sky almost as if they were materialized, blowing away the stratus clouds and showers. The majestic force of nature to non-human forces can be easily resisted. Not to mention, this wave is not a single wave, but a layer upon layer of subsections, with almost infinite back force. Kintaro clenched his teeth, and the surging general energy factor rose wildly. Feeling the infinite propulsive force coming from the top of his head, Kintaro stepped deeply into the naked in the middle of the exposed seabed. There are 3 oxtails, jumping straight. At this moment, Kintaro's relatively small body is like a pillar of the sky. Moon tilde. Kintaro's eyes became more and more cold, and he opened his mouth and shouted loudly. In an instant, the muscles all over his body swelled up, and his thick hooves were even more muscular. From the nostrils, 2 white chi spewed out like a whistle. Next second. Bang! Kintaro's feet shook violently, and the ground suddenly collapsed for a radius of more than 10 meters. And the body of Kintaro, who had been pushed back slightly by the waves, suddenly slammed, and then, a splendid force suddenly burst out, and the energy turned into the appearance of a group of galloping bulls, and instantly it crushed the huge waves and pushed out towards the sea. Clap la finally, in the loud noise of the sky, countless shattered waves splashed, bursting out layers of energy. Stepping tilde Kintaro's footsteps trembled, and Dr. Ogi groaned, and a heat flow came out of his nasal cavity. Old. Stretching out his hand and rubbing it, he glanced at the bloodstains on the back of his hand that were gradually washed away by the rain, and Dr. Ogi couldn't help but sigh. Kintaro broke through the realm of the gods, and has long been free from the shackles of life, but as a trainer, he has gradually aged. What's more, since he joined the profession of Dr. Elf, he is also the same. After a long sparse battle, Kintaro has no problem with such an all-out blow just now, but he is already a little reluctant. I don't know how Alu and the others are like themselves recently. Guys, haven't been together for many years. Just when he couldn't hold back, his thoughts were flying. You are Dr. Damu. Quote ellipsis. Not bad. Quote. Dr. Omu quickly sorted out his expression and turned his head with a reserved face. He is a bit old-fashioned, and at this time, he is looking forward to this little girl who seems to be Joey's, and the surprised expression. He must be stunned by my strength, right? Quick. Ask me why I am so strong. Then, let me pretend to be a force and tell you a story about the scenery and deeds of my youth. Dr. Damu, who was about to say something, was suddenly stunned, because although the expression of the little girl in front of him contained surprise, it was more terrified. Follow the little girl's line of sight. Dr. Damu turned back suddenly. I saw, rumbling, the first floor was at least 3 times as large as before, sweeping and rushing from the distant sea. Dr. Damu's expression changed, and he glanced at the pink-haired little loli who had a heart. The corner of his mouth twitched and he faced the monstrous waves that came rushing towards him again. After a long while, a word came out of his mouth. Gone. Time goes back to the time when the big Needlebee slaughtered Diablo Lugia under the gun in exchange for injury, and Diablo Lugia died with the wind, leaving only a purple-black diamond-shaped crystal. Immediately, the system's prompt sound came along. You commanded the giant hornet to kill the dark Lugia, and you have gained a little, the battle level +1, the strength +5, and the future hornet's experience value +25, high-speed movement proficiency, degree +5, gauntlet proficiency, degree +5, extinction needle, Stab proficiency, degree +5. Close black lens bracket. Your giant gold monster assisted in killing Dark Lugia, a little gain, physique +3, future giant gold monster experience value +15, meteor beam proficiency, proficiency +3, comet fist proficiency, proficiency +3, light wall proficiency, proficiency +3. Close black lens bracket. Ding! Complete the achievement. God Killer Kill the Top Legend. Obtaining reward for attendance. Destruction Power, exclusive to Big Needlebee, King Kong Indestructible, exclusive to Iron Dumbbell. Ding! You have gained the favor of the elf world Ocean. The innate affinity of water-type elves is +60%, and you have obtained a special passive, Ocean Affinity. Hint: remaining time of combat power time limit card 2215 hem tilde. With the sound of the system's prompt, a warm and moist feeling like the ocean's envelope emerged in his heart, which made Baizi feel a sense of closeness to the water source sea area. It seems that the sea under his feet can no longer cause any harm to him. This time the reward is obviously not less. However, Baizi obviously didn't want to check it at this time. He jumped up from the giant golden monster, and with a flash, he appeared beside the giant Needlebee. 353 The power of Baizi swept through, clearing and purifying the possible abnormal state of the large Needlebee. At the same time, take out the wound medicine in various bottles and jars. He looked slightly nervous. But the hands and feet dealt with the wounds on the bee's body in an orderly manner. How are you? Do you feel uncomfortable there? Beer tilde, it's okay, Master tilde. Big Needlebee shook his head, and stared at Baizi's familiar but slightly different aura. A flash of reminiscence flashed in his eyes. Long time no see, little master. Well. Baizi didn't find the spirit of the Big Needlebee. He understood the meaning of the Big Needlebee through telepathy, and he used the power of Baizi to probe it again, and he was a little relieved. Status: slightly severe, recovering, no dark wounds. It is good to have no dark wounds. Although the injury is serious, it is finally in the process of recovery, and it is not a big problem. As for the nearly disabled right needle arm of the large Needlebee, it is not a big problem. Because the double needles of the giant stinger are like the tail of the dumb beast, it can grow back after falling off. In the life of the giant stinger, there will be at least several times to actively exchange their double needles for new ones, in order to maintain their own fighting power.